Chapter 257. Where did you get this roasted meat? Yuan Guopong snatched the roasted meat from the disciple's hand and asked. A new outer sect disciple gave it to me. The disciple didn't want to hide anything and quickly told the truth. Yuan Guopong's eyes lit up. Looking at the disciple's puzzled expression, he smiled and said, "Don't tell anyone about this. Also, you better be on duty while you're on duty." Yuan Guopong didn't forget to throw a pill to the disciple after he finished speaking. The disciple thought that he would be punished, but he didn't expect to receive a pill instead. He nodded happily. Yuan Guopong returned to the Beast Peak and took out the roasted meat from the day. It's exactly the same. Smelling the aroma and the way it was roasted, Yuan Guopong knew that it was made by the same person. Who is it? Yuan Guopong frowned and thought. Yi Hao's figure immediately appeared in his mind. Could it be him? No, I must find out the truth. Yuan Guopong kept the two roasted meat and flew towards the outer sect. Who is it? Yi Hao was about to go to sleep when he noticed the commotion outside. He immediately got up. Your reaction is quite fast. Don't worry, I don't mean any harm. Yuan Guoping's fat body walked in and said with a smile. Oh, it's Peak Master Yuan. May I know what business you have with me? Yi Hao raised his guard. After all, Yuan Guoping's strength was equivalent to Emperor Wu. Wu Song was the strongest beside him, but he might not be able to defeat Yuan Guopong. The fight in the forest today was caused by you, right? Yuan Guopong said with a smile. His gaze was fixed on Yi Hao. Yi Hao's heart skipped a beat. He didn't leave any clues behind. How did this fatty know? Or was this fatty trying to trick him? I already said that I don't mean any harm. This isn't the place to talk. Follow me. Yuan Guopong looked around and said. Yi Hao thought that if this fatty wanted to fight, why did he have to change the location? This meant that he really didn't mean any harm. Yi Hao immediately nodded in agreement. Yi Hao originally thought that Yuan Guopong would bring him to the Beast Peak, but he didn't expect Yuan Guopong to bring him away from the 10,000 Beast sect. This made Yi Hao very puzzled. Peak Master Yuan, why did you bring me here? On a barren mountain, Yi Hao and Yuan Guopong stood face to face. Yi Hao asked with a chuckle. I want to know who you are and why you joined the Myriad Beast sect, Yuan Guopong said with a smile, holding two pieces of barbecued meat in his hands. Looking at the barbecued meat in Yuan Guoping's hand, Yi Hao immediately understood what had happened. He had been so anxious to collect Feng Yu and the others' corpses that he had forgotten about the barbecued meat. Since this fatty knows, why didn't he kill me? Why did he bring me here? Logically speaking, as the Peak Master, Yuan Guopong should have a heavy responsibility in the Thousand Beast sect. Now that there was a potential danger in the Thousand Beast sect, not only did he not care, he even secretly brought him outside. Yi Hao knew that something must have happened. Since you know that I was the one who did it, why didn't you kill me? Why did you bring me here? Yi Hao asked. Why would I kill you? We are not enemies, Yuan Guopong said with a smile. But I don't want to be friends with a bastard who betrays his master. Yi Hao was prepared to summon Wu Song at any time. At the same time, he wanted to see if Yuan Guopong was the one who killed Xie Chunyu's father. Hearing Yi Hao's words, Yuan Guoping's face, which had been full of smiles, suddenly changed. He looked at Yi Hao cautiously. Who exactly are you? How did you know about this? So, you really killed your master? Yi Hao's face turned cold as he asked seriously. If Yuan Guopong really did it, Yi Hao didn't mind taking action. Even if it was dangerous, he would work with Wu Song to kill Yuan Guopong. Yuan Guopong looked at Yi Hao quietly. His expression changed again and again. You were brought here by Chunyu? When Yuan Guopong mentioned Xie Chunyu, there was sadness in his voice. He also missed her a little. It seems that you are quite smart. Yi Hao's words were a silent admission. That girl, how is she now? Yuan Guoping's tone became gentler. It was as if he thought of the girl who followed him around every day. What do you think? Her most beloved senior brother killed the person closest to her. Is she living well or not? Yi Hao asked mockingly. Yuan Guopong felt his heart ache. He couldn't help but take a few steps back. It's not like that. Where is she? I want to explain to her personally. Yi Hao observed Yuan Guopong carefully. He realized that his expression couldn't be faked. As long as you bring me to her, I, Yuan Guopong, will be at your disposal. Yuan Guopeng immediately said when he saw that Yi Hao didn't respond. Really? Yi Hao narrowed his eyes. He was naturally very happy to obtain an Emperor Wu. Moreover, obtaining Yuan Guopeng was equivalent to obtaining the entire Beast Peak. This would undoubtedly increase his snobbishness by a large margin. I swear on the martial way. Yuan Guopeng was afraid that Yi Hao wouldn't believe him. He immediately used the power of the martial way to swear. This was because his junior sister was the most important person to him. He really didn't expect that he would be able to see her in his lifetime. Ding dong. Congratulations on obtaining the mission. As long as you bring Yuan Guopeng to see Xie Chunyu, Yuan Guopeng's loyalty will reach 100 points. After Yuan Guopeng finished swearing, Yi Hao's mind rang with a system notification. All right, follow me. Under Yi Hao's lead, the two of them quickly arrived at the small town. The two of them stopped in front of a small courtyard. Yuan Guopeng looked at the small courtyard in front of him and couldn't help but be stunned. A trace of tears involuntarily flowed out of his eyes. If the people of the Thousand Beast sect knew that the powerful Beast Peak leader of the Thousand Beast sect was crying in front of a small courtyard, they would definitely be shocked. Let's go in. Seeing Yuan Guopeng crying, Yi Hao said softly, "Forget it, let's go. I don't have the face to see junior sister." Yuan Guopeng shook his head gently and rejected. "You also know that she hasn't forgotten about you. I believe that the two of you must have come to this courtyard before." Yi Hao guessed. Yuan Guopeng nodded and looked at Yi Hao. "You are really amazing. You can even guess this." "That's right. I used to secretly bring junior sister down a mountain. We used to rent this small courtyard often. We used to live very happily. Ever since that incident, my junior sister had left, and I had become the peak master of the Beast Peak. In the Thousand Beast sect, I could be said to be second only to one person and above everyone else. I had sent someone to buy this courtyard, but I no longer had the courage to come here." Chapter 258. Junior Sister. Yuan Guopeng had not expected that he would not even notice Xie Chunyu's appearance when he let down his guard. Looking at Xie Chunyu, Yuan Guopeng could not help but panic as he called out, "Don't call me junior sister. I don't have a senior brother who killed my father." Xie Chunyu replied sadly, "Junior sister, I really did not kill master. You have to believe me." Yuan Guopeng explained immediately, "I think we should all calm down and let him tell the truth first." Yi Hao coughed dryly. After all, this was other people's family matter, and it wasn't appropriate for him to interfere. But this was related to his experience, and he had no choice but to interfere. Hence, he could only reply helplessly, "I would like to see just what you can say," Xie Chunyu said in a huff. "Junior sister, let's go in first." Seeing that his junior sister was allowing him to speak, Yuan Guopeng's heart leaped with joy. But this wasn't a place to talk after all. Even though Xie Chunyu was unwilling, she could only let Yi Hao and Lin Fan in. Yuan Guopeng told the story immediately. The current Grandmaster and Xie Chunyu's father were fellow disciples. After the previous Grandmaster passed away, the current Grandmaster took over as the Grandmaster, and Xie Chunyu's father took over as the Peak Master of the Beast Peak. Initially, everything was fine. But one day, Xie Chunyu's father found out that the previous Grandmaster was killed by the current Grandmaster. Xie Chunyu's father flew into a rage and went to the current Grandmaster to question him. Afraid that things would be exposed, the current Grandmaster killed Xie Chunyu's father when he wasn't paying attention. This scene was witnessed by Yuan Guopeng, who had rushed over to look for his master. The Grandmaster threatened that Yuan Guopeng had to bear this crime. Otherwise, he would destroy the Beast Peak. The Beast Peak was his master's blood, sweat, and tears. Now that his master was dead, how could he allow the Beast Peak to be destroyed? Yuan Guopeng could only agree to it eventually. The current Grandmaster thought that he was strong, and he had Yuan Guopeng's weakness. Therefore, he let down his guard against Yuan Guopeng. But because of that, Yuan Guopeng had to bear the crime of killing his master. But Yuan Guopeng successfully became the Peak Master of the Beast Peak. However, Yuan Guopeng viewed his master as his own father. The enmity of killing his father was absolutely irreconcilable. How could he let go of this matter? Hence, Yuan Guopeng cultivated with all his might constantly recruiting talents, also that he could kill the current sect master one day. Therefore, when Yuan Guopeng discovered that Yi Hao was hiding something, he did not report it to his superiors. Instead, he wanted to take Yi Hao under his wing. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for completing the mission. Congratulations to the host for gaining 10 million experience points. Congratulations to the host for gaining 3 million resurrection points. After listening to Yuan Guopeng's explanation, Yi Hao's mind immediately rang with a notification. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is 2nd level martial spirit. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for leveling up. Current level, 3rd level martial spirit. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for leveling up. Current level, 4th level martial spirit. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for leveling up. Current level, 7th stage martial spirit. 10 million EXP was enough for Yi Hao to level up 7 times. Awesome! Yi Hao immediately shouted excitedly in his heart. At the same time, he immediately hid his aura of leveling up. Fortunately, Yuan Guopeng and Yi Hao's attention was not on him, so the two of them did not notice it at all. If he were to fight Fan Yu now, he would probably be able to easily kill him. Missions are still the best. Yi Hao thought excitedly. What you said is true. Xie Chunyu's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at Yuan Guopeng with grievance. Junior sister, I swear that everything I said is true. Yuan Guopeng quickly swore. Xie Chunyu threw herself into Yuan Guopeng's arms. Well, I knew senior brother wouldn't do that. Do you know that I was really afraid that you would kill my father? I almost couldn't live. Xie Chunyu lay in Yuan Guopeng's arms, wishing that she could cry out all her grievances. Seeing the two of them being so affectionate, Yi Hao shook his head gently and walked out. I wonder how they are doing. Yi Hao sat on the roof and looked at the night sky. He thought of Zimo or Miaoyan and Li Yura. I will definitely work hard to level up and become the Lord of all kingdoms. I will give you enough protection. Yi Hao swore in his heart because he knew that he was too weak. Sometimes, he thought that he might as well return to the Yanlong kingdom and live a carefree life as a carefree emperor. But sometimes, even if you don't find trouble with others, trouble will automatically find you. After all, the Fire Dragon Empire was not even comparable to an ant compared to the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. Therefore, Yi Hao knew that as long as he worked hard to become stronger and become the Lord of all kingdoms, he would be able to protect his family and the people he loved. Moreover, Yi Hao had the system. He was not willing to live like that. Oh right, I still have a gift pack. Help me open it. This gift pack was a reward from the system for breaking through to the martial spirit realm. Yi Hao put away the loneliness in his heart and said to the system, Congratulations to the host for obtaining the equipment upgrade talisman. It's the same thing again. Could it be to upgrade equipment? Hearing that the system only rewarded one item, Yi Hao thought with some dissatisfaction. Equipment upgrade talisman. Divine level, it can be used on any equipment. After use, the equipment can be upgraded to the divine level. What? Did I hear wrongly? Divine level? Yi Hao immediately shook his head and asked. So far, he only had a sacred level weapon. He had not seen what a divine level weapon looked like. In other words, with this equipment upgrade talisman, he could upgrade any equipment to the divine level. Divine level weapons were the top weapons in the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. Just thinking about it made Yi Hao excited. Yi Hao took out the equipment upgrade talisman from the air. It was only a small yellow strip. Yi Hao asked with some uncertainty, System, are you sure that this inconspicuous little strip can upgrade equipment to the divine level weapon? If you don't believe me, you could try it. Please don't doubt the system. It won't do me any good if the system deceives you. The system said coldly. All right. Yi Hao took out his blood-stained dual blades. This pair of weapons had been with him ever since he came to the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. I'll let you have it. Yi Hao liked the blood-stained dual blades very much. Yi Hao then pasted the equipment upgrade talisman onto the blood-stained dual blades. A friendly reminder from the system. The birth of a divine level weapon will cause a natural anomaly. Please choose a place with fewer people to proceed with it. Damn, why didn't you say so earlier? Yi Hao could not do anything about the system's belated advice. But it was too late. The equipment upgrade talisman had already merged with the blood-stained dual blades. Rumble, suddenly, there was a flash of lightning in the sky. Winds began to blow and clouds began to gather. A rainbow light shot up into the sky. This is the birth of a divine-level weapon. Many of the elites in the 10,000 Kingdoms continent saw the sudden change in the sky and the rainbow light in the sky. They were all excited and rushed toward Yi Hao with all their might. Chapter 259. Forget it. Let's get away from here first. Seeing that the people in the town had been awakened, Yi Hao was anxious. He grabbed the blood-stained dual blades and started running. Yi Hao's current speed was comparable to a middle martial honorable. With the addition of the butterfly steps, Yi Hao's speed was comparable to a peak martial honorable. What's going on? Sensing the commotion outside, Yuan Guopeng and Xie Chunyu immediately ran out. However, they could no longer see Yi Hao. It seems like a treasure has appeared. Hide first. I'll come and find you later. Yuan Guopeng did not forget to remind Xie Chunyu. He immediately chased after Yi Hao. You must be careful. Xie Chunyu immediately shouted worriedly. What a powerful aura. Such a treasure actually appeared in my Thousand Beasts sect. This treasure is mine. The Thousand Beasts sect leader was in a secret room, preparing for some ceremony. Suddenly, he sensed the aura in the air and immediately flew out. Damn, this is really playing me to death. Yi Hao could already feel a few powerful auras rushing towards him. Yi Hao wished he could throw away the blood-stained dual blades. However, this was a divine artifact. How could he do that? However, this damned vision of heaven and earth was actually following him. No matter where he ran, the rainbow light in the sky followed him. When will it end? It's really going to be too late. Yi Hao was already using all his strength to fly. However, more and more experts were gathering towards him. If he was surrounded, he would not be able to avoid being killed for the treasure. Yi Hao could not help but feel anxious. The rainbow light is moving. Someone must have taken it. Quickly chase after it. This divine artifact is mine. Don't even think about snatching it. A mere martial emperor dares to fight with me for the divine artifact. You really don't know what's good for you. The martial saint suddenly attacked and hit the martial emperor with his palm. The martial emperor's expression changed, and he was instantly sent flying by the martial saint. What piece of trash. You still want to fight for the treasure. The martial saint snorted in disdain and immediately chased after Yi Hao. Humph! It's finally gone. Yi Hao could not help but heave a sigh of relief when he saw the heaven and earth phenomenon disappear. If he had been a little later, he would have had to throw away the blood-stained twin blades. Quick! The multicolored light has disappeared. The divine artifact must be around here. Yi Hao could already hear the commotion around them. Oh no! Yi Hao was extremely anxious, but the group of experts still managed to catch up to him. All right, I still have this. Yi Hao suddenly recalled that he had obtained 2 teleportation talismans when he first arrived at the Myriad Kingdom continent. One was used when he was running for his life, which was when he ran to the Evil Dragon Valley, and the other one was almost lost by him. Although the teleportation talisman's range was not far, it was enough to resolve the current situation. Sensing the powerful aura surrounding him, he had no other choice. Yi Hao hurriedly took out a teleportation talisman and used it. Yi Hao only saw a blur before he was teleported out of the encirclement. Yi Hao could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. However, there were still experts flying past from time to time. Is there a need for this? There are already 3 martial sages flying past. In just a short while, 3 martial sages had already flown past Yi Hao's head. The rest were basically martial emperors. Even Emperor Wu was very rare. Forget it, I don't even know where I've been teleported to. I can only follow them to find the Thousand Beasts sect. Yi Hao then realized that he did not know where he had been teleported to. However, according to the range of the teleportation talisman, he was definitely not far from the Thousand Beasts sect. If it was in the past, it would have taken him a while. However, with his current speed, he would definitely be able to reach the Thousand Beasts sect in a short while. However, he did not know where he had been teleported to, nor could he determine where the Thousand Beasts sect was. He could only determine the direction of the Thousand Beasts sect based on the direction of the experts in the air. After all, the direction he had been teleported in was the direction of the Thousand Beasts sect. Thinking of this, Yi Hao immediately flew in the direction of the others. Aha, this is too funny. Even trash at the martial spirit realm wants to covet the divine artifact. Trash will always be trash. He's always so delusional. Although Yi Hao was using hidden martial arts when he was flying a high speed, his cultivation level was exposed. Suddenly, a few martial emperors flew over his head and began to mock him mercilessly. So what if you're a martial emperor? Yi Hao's eyes flashed with dissatisfaction as he thought to himself unhappily. Oh, this trash actually dares to show dissatisfaction in his eyes. One of the martial emperors suddenly stopped. His voice was filled with disdain. At the same time, he slapped Yi Hao's body. Uffed! How could Yi Hao withstand a martial emperor's attack? He was instantly sent flying. Oh, you're quite strong. Watch me hit you again. Mu Zheng looked at Yi Hao mockingly. Forget it, Junior Mu Zheng. The divine artifact is more important. This trash is heavily injured. I don't think he can live for much longer. One of the martial emperors quickly pulled Mu Zheng aside and said. Mu Zheng felt that it made sense. Senior brother is right. Let's go. Mu Xingzong, if I'm still alive, I will slaughter your entire sect. Yi Hao looked at the identities on their badges and swore with difficulty. My lord, are you all right? The weapon spirit of Dragon Prison, Lake, quickly asked. System, how many resurrection points do you need to heal my injuries? Yi Hao's consciousness began to become confused. Yi Hao struggled to ask. You received a martial emperor's attack. Your body and soul are severely damaged. If you don't heal, your soul will be destroyed. 1 million resurrection points are required. The system said, Quick, help me heal. Although Yi Hao's heart ached for the resurrection points, his life was still more important. He used all his strength to beg the system. Ding dong. Host spent 1 million resurrection points to scan body. Body severely damaged. Immediate treatment. Yi Hao felt a splitting headache. His spirit was rapidly collapsing. If all his spirit collapsed, even if he didn't die, he would become an idiot again. In the nick of time, the system immediately emitted a strong golden light, enveloping Yi Hao's spirit. When Yi Hao's spirit stopped collapsing, the golden light emitted by the system began to wander around Yi Hao's limbs and bones, restoring Yi Hao's damaged tissues. Yi Hao groaned comfortably. This feeling made him very comfortable, and he couldn't help but moan. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for increasing his body's strength to level 4. Yi Hao didn't hear the system's notification at all. He was still sleeping in the sea of bliss. After an hour, Yi Hao suddenly opened his eyes. Mu Xingzong, just you wait. If I don't destroy your entire sect, I, Yi Hao, am not human. Yi Hao's eyes were filled with hatred. If it wasn't for the system, he would have died in their hands. Even so, he had wasted 1 million resurrection points. That was enough to summon a martial honorable. Thinking about it now, Yi Hao's heart still ached. Chapter 260. Your body was injured by the martial emperor. With the help of the system, your body was broken and then rebuilt. Therefore, you benefited from the disaster and your body broke through to the 4th level. The system said coldly. What? Yi Hao was surprised by the breakthrough of his body. Even the heavens are helping me. Whatever, let's rush back to the Thousand Beasts sect first. Yi Hao knew that he could not stay here for long. If he was hit again, he would not be able to get along. Young friend, save me. Yi Hao was flying at a low altitude when he suddenly heard a cry for help from below. Who is it? Is there someone like me? Yi Hao was puzzled. With a trace of curiosity in his heart, he landed. Boom! Just when Yi Hao was still unable to find a shadow of the person, a person suddenly attacked him from behind. Who is it? Get out of my way. Yi Hao had broken through consecutively. Although he was still a 7th level martial spirit, he could fight against a 5th level martial venerable. Therefore, Yi Hao's speed was also very fast. He quickly dodged, and at the same time, he struck out with his palm and quickly hit the person who attacked him. How is this possible? Aren't you a martial spirit? How can you have the strength of a mid-level martial venerable? Chen Ziqiao fell to the ground and asked in disbelief. He was the martial emperor who was injured by the martial saint. He could only hide and struggle at death's door because of his serious injuries. His strength had also decreased greatly. After waiting for a long time, he did not expect to meet a martial spirit trash. Originally, he wanted to catch Yi Hao off guard and seize Yi Hao's soul, who knew that Yi Hao would burst out with the strength of a martial venerable and catch him off guard, causing him to be even more injured. How dare you sneak attack me? I think you're tired of living. Yi Hao walked slowly towards Chen Ziqiao. Young friend, it was a misunderstanding. It was all a misunderstanding. Chen Ziqiao looked at Yi Hao, who was walking towards him with killing intent, and could not help but panic. Who are you? Yi Hao lifted Chen Ziqiao up and flew to a hidden cave. I am the old ancestor of the state of Chen. My name is Chen Ziqiao. Little friend, if you save me, I will give you half of my territory, Chen Ziqiao said fearfully as he looked at the weapon against his neck. The more he thought about it, the higher his cultivation, the more he feared death. Naturally, he was unwilling to die at the hands of a weakling like Yi Hao. Oh, what is your strength? Yi Hao used an appraisal technique and discovered that he couldn't see through Chen Ziqiao's cultivation. He couldn't help but ask, Cough, I'm a third-order martial emperor. Chen Ziqiao coughed out a mouthful of blood due to his severe injuries. A martial emperor. Yi Hao was overjoyed. He had not expected to pick up a martial emperor. If he could kill him, how much experience would he get? Haha. As the saying goes, one who survives a great disaster is bound to have good fortune in the future. Yi Hao laughed excitedly. He had not expected that he would not be killed by a martial emperor. Instead, he had picked up a heavily injured one. Little friend, what are you laughing at? Killing me won't bring you any benefits. On the contrary, if you save me, you can obtain half of an emperor country's territory. Chen Ziqiao quickly tried to tempt Yi Hao when he saw him laughing. Yi Hao chuckled as he looked at Chen Ziqiao. Do you think I will believe you? Don't forget who was the one who tried to sneak attack me. That was all a misunderstanding. Chen Ziqiao laughed awkwardly. Even if he was beaten to death, he would never have thought that there would be a day when he would bow down to a martial spirit realm trash. He had already made up his mind. As long as he could survive, he would kill Yi Hao with his own hands to wash away his humiliation. If news of this were spread, it would be too shameful. To kill or not to kill, Yi Hao pondered in his heart. Looking at Chen Ziqiao's expression, Yi Hao knew that he was up to no good. Yi Hao wanted to use the mind control pill to control Chen Ziqiao. After all, he could directly obtain the power of an emperor country. It was much more worthwhile than killing Chen Ziqiao. However, the mind control pill had a limit. It could only control people of the same level. Where could he find a martial emperor expert? Even if he used up all his resurrection points, he could only summon one Emperor Wu. Then I can only kill him. Yi Hao felt that it was a pity, but no matter what, it was still a pleasant surprise. Killing a martial emperor expert for no reason would definitely give him a lot of experience. He might even get some good items. I'm sorry. I can only kill you because I don't trust you. Yi Hao said softly to Chen Ziqiao. Don't. I'll give you the entire emperor country. Chen Ziqiao saw that Yi Hao was unmoved, as if he really wanted to kill him. He hurriedly said anxiously. Yi Hao chuckled. I already said that I don't trust you. However, it is indeed a pity to kill you. But I have no other choice. Chen Ziqiao's mind spun quickly. Then I will also rely on you. I swear. In order to survive, Chen Ziqiao could only go all out. Then you go ahead. I, Chen Ziqiao, swear on my martial arts that I will follow. Chen Ziqiao did not know Yi Hao's name and looked at Yi Hao in confusion. Yi Hao. Yi Hao said lightly. I, Chen Ziqiao, swear on my martial arts that I will follow Yi Hao in the future. Otherwise, my martial arts will backfire and my soul will scatter. After Chen Ziqiao swore, the power of martial arts surged in the air. Chen Ziqiao quickly dripped a drop of blood essence. The power of martial arts absorbed Chen Ziqiao's blood essence and quickly formed a small talisman that flew directly into Yi Hao's mind. Yi Hao was already used to this phenomenon. Although everyone in the Myriad Kingdom continent practiced martial arts, they were also deeply controlled by martial arts. If one swore on their martial arts, they could not go back on their words. Otherwise, the power of martial arts would devour them until nothing was left. However, as a martial artist, they were all very arrogant. Their pride was more important than their life. Therefore, unless they were forced to do so, almost no martial artist would be willing to swear. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for subduing a third-order martial emperor expert. Loyalty, 100. Congratulations to the host for gaining 500,000 experience points. Congratulations to the host for gaining 500,000 resurrection points. Although the experience points were not as much as killing a martial artist, he now had the power of a dynasty under his command. Yi Hao's displeasure for being beaten up today dissipated a lot. Greetings to the Lord. Chen Ziqiao felt bitter in his heart. When he saw the appearance of the divine artifact, he wanted to fight for it. Who knew that not only did he not see the divine artifact, he was also taken in by a martial spirit realm expert as a subordinate. If this spread out, how could he survive in the Chun country? But since he had already sworn, it was a foregone conclusion. He could not go back on his words, even if he wanted to. Hey, can you do it or not? Yi Hao was really worried that Chen Ziqiao would suddenly die. If that happened, his efforts would be wasted. If that was the case, he might as well kill him himself and save himself from wasting resources. Lord, there are healing pills in my spatial ring. My spirit is damaged, and I am unable to open it. Please help me. Chen Ziqiao reluctantly handed the spatial ring to Yi Hao. It was because his spirit was damaged that he was unable to open the spatial ring. Therefore, he wanted to use all his strength to capture Yi Hao and have Yi Hao help him retrieve the pills. Chapter 261. Hee. I would like to see what good things you have here. Yi Hao took Chen Ziqiao's interspatial ring with a greedy look. This was a lifetime treasure of a martial emperor. Now that it was placed in front of him, he could take it however he wanted. Cough, cough. Yi Hao coughed dryly and immediately wiped away the greed on his face. No matter what, he could not lose face in front of his subordinates. Chen Ziqiao's expression turned bitter. This interspatial ring contained the resources of an entire dynasty. However, when he thought about how his life was still in Yi Hao's hands, he immediately felt at ease. As Chen Ziqiao's mental strength was damaged, Yi Hao easily wiped away the mental strength on the interspatial ring. Yi Hao immediately probed his mental strength into the interspatial ring. Not bad, it's a few hundred meters wide. The first thing Yi Hao saw was the size of the interspatial ring. Compared to the one he had obtained from Zhu Yi, it was indeed much bigger. Yi Hao saw a few purple-red jade tokens in the corner of the interspatial ring. It looked like they were Chen Ziqiao's demonic beasts. There was also a pile of unused demonic beast eggs. Half of the space was filled with treasures and a large pile of banknotes. In the other corner, there was a large pile of elixir bottles. Beside the elixir bottles was a wooden shelf with 5 small bottles on it. Yi Hao's consciousness moved, and one of the small bottles instantly appeared in his hand. Yi Hao asked Chen Ziqiao, "Is this it?" "That's right. Master, it is." Chen Ziqiao looked at the elixir bottle and nodded with difficulty. "Take it." Yi Hao opened the small bottle and discovered that there was only one elixir inside. Compared to the divine elixir he had before, it was much worse. Yi Hao curled his lips. "I thought it was a divine elixir and treated it like a treasure." Chen Ziqiao's expression turned bitter. How could a divine elixir be so easy to obtain? He was at the bottom of the martial emperors. To be able to obtain these fake holy pills, he had spent a lot of effort to obtain them. There are also some cultivation methods here. Yi Hao took out a few wooden boxes from the corner he saw. It's actually an earth-grade cultivation technique. Yi Hao was delighted when he saw the introduction of the cultivation technique. Although it was enough for him to have the system, and he didn't need any cultivation techniques, his people and subordinates needed them. The best cultivation method he had obtained in the past was only a black-grade cultivation method. Martial emperors were indeed different. Just the earth-grade cultivation techniques alone were 3. This is a martial technique, murderous earth palm. It looks pretty good. Yi Hao saw one of the martial techniques. Aside from the shadow butterfly steps, the martial skills that he had obtained previously were practically unusable as his level increased. Now, he had finally obtained another martial skill. Ding dong, do you want to learn Earth rank, low stage, Earth killing palm? Yes. Yi Hao flipped to the first page of the Killing Earth palm, and the system immediately rang with a notification. Ding dong, congratulations to host for successfully learning Earth murdering palm. Killing Earth palm. Yi Hao was bored, so he wanted to test the power of the Killing Earth palm. He directly attacked the ground. Bang! Yi Hao's palm landed on the ground, instantly creating a cloud of dust. Then, the dust dispersed. A small hole the size of Yi Hao's palm appeared on the ground, but the hole was so deep that he couldn't see the bottom. It is indeed an earth-grade cultivation technique. I feel that my combat power has increased by several times in an instant. Yi Hao exclaimed, "What? Master, you have learned the murderous earth palm?" Chun Ziqiao was very familiar with his own martial skill. Chun Ziqiao immediately recognized the aura of the palm that Yi Hao had just unleashed. Chun Ziqiao asked in shock. The reason why earth-grade cultivation techniques were earth-grade cultivation techniques was not only because they were powerful, but also because they were very difficult to learn. The lower the cultivation, the harder it was to learn. When Yi Hao obtained this martial skill, he was already at the peak of Emperor Wu's realm. But he had to study it for half a month before he could learn it. Yi Hao took it out and took a look, but he had already learned it. "My lord, did you know this before?" Yi Hao gently shook his head. "This is your martial skill. I have never seen it before." "That's true." Chun Ziqiao cursed in his heart. What kind of monster was this? He had to study for half a month before he could learn this martial skill, but Yi Hao could learn it with just a glance. This was too much of a blow to him. Yi Hao placed the murderous earth palm back into Chun Ziqiao's interspatial ring. Suddenly, he saw a small pile of crystals. These crystals were similar to demon beast cores, but Yi Hao realized that they weren't. That was why he almost overlooked these crystals. Yi Hao took the crystals and asked Chun Ziqiao. Chun Ziqiao looked at the crystals in Yi Hao's hand and said with pain, "Master, these are martial arts crystals. They can be used by martial artists for cultivation." Martial arts crystals? Why haven't I heard of them? Yi Hao asked curiously. In his memory, there was no such thing. Yi Hao didn't know, but Chun Ziqiao wasn't surprised. Back then, when he was Emperor Wu, he didn't know what martial arts crystals were. It was only when he reached the martial emperor level that he spent a lot of money to obtain these few hundred martial arts crystals. Martial arts crystals were condensed from the dense martial Tao energy of the Myriad Kingdom continent over a long period of time. They could be used by martial artists for cultivation. But now that there was a shortage of martial Tao power, martial Tao crystals were rare and precious. And martial arts crystals had become a rare item among the experts of the Myriad Kingdom continent. Almost only martial emperors could come into contact with martial arts crystals. "Boss, don't look down on this small martial arts crystal. This crystal is equivalent to several days of my cultivation." Chun Ziqiao introduced. "Does this martial arts crystal of yours have a grade?" Yi Hao found that everything in the Myriad Kingdom continent was divided into grades, so Yi Hao asked curiously. Chun Ziqiao said somewhat embarrassedly, "Yes, martial arts crystals are divided into low grade, middle grade, high grade, and peerless grade. And these are only low-grade martial arts crystals. It seems that you're not doing well either. These are only low-grade martial arts crystals. You only have a few hundred." Yi Hao said teasingly. "Lord, for someone like me who has a few hundred low-grade martial Tao crystals, it's already considered pretty good. Some martial emperors can't even get a single martial Tao crystal in their entire lives." Chun Ziqiao boasted. "This is what I saved up for hundreds of years." Chun Ziqiao was afraid that Yi Hao would snatch them all away, so he didn't forget to complain. In the Myriad Kingdom continent, martial artists who cultivated to the martial saint level had a lifespan of 300 years. And at the martial saint level, they aged slowly. So when Chun Ziqiao said that he was a few hundred years old, Yi Hao wasn't surprised at all. After all, at a certain level of cultivation, one's appearance wouldn't change. Perhaps when you saw a martial saint, you would only see the appearance of a teenager, but he would be an old monster thousands of years old. These were very normal in the Myriad Kingdom continent. Chapter 262. Yi Hao was slightly taken aback. Experience stone, is it this? Yi Hao looked at the martial Dao crystal in his hand and guessed. Yi Hao subconsciously said, yes. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for devouring the experience stone and gaining 30,000 experience. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for leveling up. Yi Hao had just subdued Chun Ziqiao and gained 500,000 experience. He was on the verge of leveling up. Now that he had gained 30,000 experience, Yi Hao also successfully broke through. Yi Hao looked at the martial Dao crystal in his hand and found that it had been shattered. Sure enough, the martial Dao crystal is the experience stone. If I can get tens of thousands of these martial Dao crystals, then I will be rich. Yi Hao thought excitedly, but it was just a thought for now, because even Chun Ziqiao, a martial emperor expert, only had a few hundred low-grade martial Dao crystal cores. It would be easy for him to get tens of thousands of them. My lord, you broke through. Seeing Yi Hao use a martial Dao crystal and instantly break through, Chun Ziqiao asked in shock. Ha ha, I knew something was wrong here. Sure enough, someone is here. At this moment, a person suddenly walked in from the entrance of the cave and laughed loudly. A little martial spirit guy and a seriously injured martial emperor expert. There should be a lot of benefits. The person who came was Emperor Wu. Just now, he was flying close to the ground and was attracted by Yi Hao's palm. However, he did not come in immediately. Instead, he found that Yi Hao had broken through and sensed Yi Hao's aura. Only then did he put down his vigilance and swagger in. In the Myriad Kingdom continent, killing people to steal treasures was not uncommon. This Emperor Wu obviously wanted to kill Chun Ziqiao and steal the treasure. Who are you? How dare you disturb this emperor's cultivation? Get lost. Chun Ziqiao had not recovered yet, but he pretended to be calm and said, stop acting. Your aura is so weak. I can tell at a glance that you are seriously injured. Otherwise, why don't you kill me? Emperor Wu scoffed at Chun Ziqiao's performance. If he had not waited outside for a long time and knew that Chun Ziqiao was seriously injured, he would not have wanted to come in. Fire Qilin's sword. Emperor Wu was also afraid that things would change if he delayed. He immediately used a Xian-level technique. The spiritual weapon in Emperor Wu's hand instantly ignited and rushed towards Yi Hao. The flames instantly melted the cave. Don't hurt my lord. Yi Hao knew that he was not a match for him, so he immediately summoned Wu Song. Wu Song immediately waved his staff, fiercely striking the flames, and the flames instantly shattered. Why is there someone else? Seeing Wu Song suddenly appear, the martial emperor could not help but be stunned. However, when he saw Wu Song's cultivation, he could not help but be on guard. After all, Wu Song was at the peak of the martial revered realm, and he had just broken through to the First Order Martial King realm. Therefore, his cultivation was not stable, but it was enough to kill Wu Song. The one with the stick, I'll deal with you first, then I'll deal with the other two. The martial emperor raised his spiritual weapon again and attacked Wu Song. Watch me smash your head with my staff. Wu Song was not afraid at all. He waved his staff and met the attack head-on. My lord, can that person do it? Chun Ziqiao asked worriedly. Wu Song and Emperor Wu had already fought outside because the cave was too small. Don't worry, Wu Song can definitely do it. Yi Hao was still quite confident in Wu Song's strength. Boom! Bang! The sound of fighting outside could be heard. At the same time, there were flames everywhere. From time to time, there would be shouts from the two and the sound of rocks and trees breaking. This person is so strong. I can't take him down in a short time. Emperor Wu had been fighting with Wu Song for a while. He thought that if he used all his strength, he would be able to take care of Wu Song quickly. But he realized that Wu Song was not struggling at all when he was fighting with him. Instead, he was getting more and more excited. I have to take him down quickly. Otherwise, if those two escaped, that would be bad. Emperor Wu was anxious, and his attacks became more frequent. Suddenly, Wu Song made a feint and quickly ran to the side. Is this kid going to die? Emperor Wu looked at Wu Song, who suddenly ran away, and felt suspicious. At first, Wu Song was still evenly matched with him. How could he suddenly die? Emperor Wu could not help but sneer in his heart. There must be a trap. I'm not going to chase after him. My goal is to kill that Emperor Wu. Emperor Wu looked at Wu Song's back. He did not care if there was a trap or not. He did not chase after him. Instead, he turned around and flew toward the cave. Where is he? Emperor Wu entered the cave, but there was no one inside. He could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Oh no! Emperor Wu immediately wanted to open the cave and leave. But suddenly, a staff was shot into the cave. It was Wu Song who had returned. Do you think this can hurt me? Seeing the staff that was attacking him, Emperor Wu smiled in disdain and immediately used his spiritual artifact to block it. Bang! The wooden staff was shattered into pieces by Emperor Wu. Seeing that the wooden staff was shattered, Emperor Wu's expression changed. Oh no, I've been tricked. After fighting with Wu Song for so long, Emperor Wu knew very well that Wu Song's staff was not a normal wooden staff. It was definitely a decent spiritual artifact. Since it was a decent spiritual artifact, it would not be so easily shattered by him. As soon as Emperor Wu had this thought, he immediately shattered the roof of the cave and wanted to escape. A blow to the head. Just as Emperor Wu flew out from the roof of the cave, he suddenly heard Wu Song's roar. Wu Song suddenly appeared above him, and he did not have time to change his direction. He immediately raised his spiritual artifact to protect his head. Bang! There was a loud and clear sound coming from the spiritual artifact. But Wu Song continued to attack. He did not give Emperor Wu any chance to react. Bang! Bang! Crack! Wu Song struck 3 times in a row. Finally, Emperor Wu's spiritual artifact could not hold on any longer. There was a clear cracking sound, and it broke in the middle. It's over. When Emperor Wu heard the sound of his weapon breaking, he immediately felt the arrival of the Grim Reaper. At this time, Emperor Wu had already been beaten to the ground. Emperor Wu raised his head in fear and saw the staff coming toward his head. No! Emperor Wu let out a heart-wrenching cry. His face was filled with despair. Bang! Wu Song smashed the martial monarch's head with his staff and split his body into 2. Nice! Yi Hao stood at the entrance of the cave and saw everything. He could not help but cheer. It could be said that Wu Song had used his own strength to kill Emperor Wu, who was stronger than him. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for killing Emperor Wu by 1 rank. Congratulations to the host for gaining 200,000 experience points. Congratulations to the host for gaining 200,000 soul points. He is really brave and resourceful. If he knew martial arts, he could have easily killed Emperor Wu. Chen Ziqiao could not help but praise him. That was because he just realized that Wu Song did not know any martial arts. He had used his martial arts strength and his own wits to kill Emperor Wu. Master, we should not stay here for long. Why are there so many powerful people here today? The sound of fighting just now will definitely attract more powerful people. Wu Song did not know what was happening outside. Chapter 263. I really don't understand. These people did not even find the divine artifact. Why are they still fighting? Yi Hao looked at the sky and saw a shocking battle. Occasionally, sparks would fly everywhere. This should be a battle between martial sages, Chen Ziqiao said as he looked at the battle in the distance and the flickering figures in the sky. How did you get injured? Yi Hao asked Chen Ziqiao. He did not understand how a martial emperor expert like him could get injured. It was the martial sages of Mu Sheng's sect. Chen Ziqiao's face was filled with hatred. Haha, it's Mu Sheng's sect again. Yi Hao's gaze turned cold as a dense killing intent flickered in his eyes. How come Lord knows about Mu Sheng's sect as well? Chen Ziqiao asked curiously when he saw the killing intent in Yi Hao's eyes. Earlier, I met a few martial emperors, and they injured me. They were from Mu Sheng's sect, Yi Hao said softly. What? Chen Ziqiao was slightly shocked. He did not expect such a coincidence. The two of them were both injured by Mu Shang's sex people. However, Chun Ziqiao was even more shocked that Yi Hao was still alive after being attacked by martial emperors. He was even standing there unscathed. "One day, I will get my revenge," Yi Hao said coldly as he clenched his fists tightly. "Lord, you still have me." Although Chun Ziqiao was afraid of death, it did not mean that he was a coward. He was just unwilling to die in such a dubious manner. That was why he sided with Yi Hao. That was because he also wanted to take revenge and obtain justice for himself. For no reason at all, he had been seriously injured and almost died. How could he possibly swallow this anger? "Do you know about the Great Sun Dynasty?" Yi Hao suddenly asked Chun Ziqiao. This was because the Great Sun Dynasty was the one who captured Yi Batian. If you want to know about the faction behind ZMO, he would have to ask the Great Sun Dynasty. Great Sun Dynasty? Lord is from the Great Sun Dynasty? Chun Ziqiao asked with a strange expression when he heard about the Great Sun Dynasty. Seeing Chun Ziqiao's expression, Yi Hao shook his head and said, "No, you know." Chun Ziqiao smiled bitterly and said, "My lord, you don't know. The Great Sun Empire is connected to the Chun Nation. In the past, the Chun Nation was a head above the Great Sun Empire. However, 1 year ago, we received some help from some faction. This year, we developed rapidly and became an imperial empire. Do you know what force it is?" Yi Hao asked hurriedly. If his guess was right, this force was the force behind ZMO. However, one could imagine how powerful the force behind ZMO was to be able to make a dynasty leap to become an imperial dynasty. The only one he could rely on now was Chunguo. Looking at Chun Ziqiao's appearance, Chunguo was probably not having a good time now. "I really don't know about that. But I reckon that at the very least, it must be a top-tier holy empire to be so generous." Chun Ziqiao guessed. "Looks like I still have to work harder." Yi Hao had thought that he was already very powerful. No wonder ZMO had told him not to look for her unless he was a martial god. Yi Hao guessed that the force behind ZMO was at least a top-tier holy empire. A holy empire was comparable to hundreds of dynasties. One could imagine how big the gap between Yi Hao and them was now. This was because he had accidentally subdued Chun Ziqiao, allowing him to obtain an empire for free. Otherwise, the gap between him and ZMO would be even bigger. "You can go back first. Give me the address of Chunguo." The reason why Yi Hao had subdued Chun Ziqiao and not killed him was because of the empire behind Chun Ziqiao. Yi Hao also wanted to keep Chun Ziqiao by his side. After all, he was a martial emperor. With the protection of a martial emperor, his development would be smoother. However, without Chun Ziqiao and Chunguo, the Chunguo would be destroyed sooner or later. Yi Hao was clear about which was more important. "Master, after I recover, I will return to Chunguo, because there are still 2 people with evil intentions that I need to deal with." Chun Ziqiao narrowed his eyes, revealing a strong resentment. The 2 people he was talking about were his subordinates. Originally, these 2 people obeyed his orders. Who would have thought that when he was seriously injured, the 2 of them would abandon him and escape directly? "What? You still have martial emperors in Chunguo?" Yi Hao's eyes lit up. What he lacked now were experts. "There are still 2 ungrateful bastards. I nurtured them to first order martial emperors. This time, I will definitely kill them." Chun Ziqiao clenched his fists and said, "No matter what, they are still talents. It would be a pity to kill them. That way, Chunguo's strength will decrease greatly. It would be best if you could control them," Yi Hao said. Chun Ziqiao smiled bitterly and said, "How can I not understand what Master is saying? However, other than making them swear, there is no other way. However, some people would rather die than swear with their martial strength because it will affect their talent in their next life." "There is such a saying?" Yi Hao was slightly surprised. "That's right. As long as a person dies, they will enter the 6 paths of reincarnation and be reincarnated. However, if they swear with their martial strength, their talent in their next life will decrease." Chun Ziqiao explained. This kind of thing was only spread among experts. Therefore, it was normal for people with low cultivation levels to not know about it. On the path of martial strength, opportunities could be encountered but not sought. Therefore, talent was extremely important. Many experts were unable to take another step forward in their lifetime because they were limited by their talent. Of course, most cultivators would not be willing to gamble with their next life. However, I don't care. First, I will figure out my next life. Who knows, I might be able to cultivate until I become immortal. How can there be a next life? Chun Ziqiao pretended to be indifferent. However, he knew his talent. If he did not have a powerful opportunity, he would probably stay in the martial emperor realm for the rest of his life. Don't worry, you will do it. Yihao also knew that Chun Ziqiao would definitely feel uncomfortable after swearing to join him. He could not help but comfort him. After all, who would feel good if a martial emperor who could command a region suddenly became the subordinate of a martial spirit? Here are 2 mind control pills. They can completely control others. You can make those 2 take them. If it doesn't work, then kill them. Yihao took out 2 mind control pills and handed them to Chun Ziqiao. Mind control pill? There is such a pill? Can it control martial emperors? Chun Ziqiao asked suspiciously as he took the mind control pills. Yihao chuckled and said, "Not to mention martial emperors. Even martial gods can be controlled." What? Chun Ziqiao was shocked and almost dropped the pills on the ground. "Master, where did you get this?" Chun Ziqiao blurted out. He was afraid that Yihao would misunderstand and quickly explained, "What I mean is if we sell this mind control pill, we will be rich." Chapter 264. When Yihao heard that he could sell martial Dao crystals, he was immediately tempted. To him, martial Dao crystals were experience stones. No matter how much he was given, he would not complain about it. Then Yihao suppressed this thought. Just like what Chun Ziqiao said, he still had to be able to keep the control pill. Not to mention a martial god. Even if a martial sage came, he would still be dead. Do you think that if you take out the control pill, others won't be tempted? Don't lose your life before you can earn martial Dao crystals. Yihao couldn't help but say. Chun Ziqiao's heart trembled, and a pile of sweat suddenly appeared on his head. Lord is right. Blame me for being greedy. If this control pill was taken out, it would definitely cause a huge wave in the Myriad Kingdom continent. Chun Ziqiao really didn't have the confidence to keep it. Then, Lord, why didn't you give it to me just now? Then I wouldn't have to swear. Chun Ziqiao suddenly asked gloomily. This control pill has a limit. It can only control martial artists of the same level or lower than your own level. It will lose its effect on martial artists of a higher level. Yihao explained. Chun Ziqiao felt bitter in his heart. Why was he so unlucky? But I still have a way to make money. Yihao suddenly said with a smile. What? Chun Ziqiao asked quickly. What is this? Seeing Yihao take out a bottle of white wine, Chun Ziqiao asked puzzledly. Yihao said with a smile. Take a sip and taste it. Chun Ziqiao glanced at Yihao and carefully took the bottle. He opened it and took a sip. He asked uncertainly, This is wine. How do you feel? Yihao's erguo was good. This was the first time it was drunk by a martial emperor. The taste is indeed better than the wine in the Myriad Kingdom continent, but Chun Ziqiao finished drinking and hesitated. But what? Yihao asked curiously. Without martial Dao power, it will definitely not be easy to sell. At most, it can be sold for gold and silver treasures. Chun Ziqiao gave a suggestion. Martial Dao power again. For the martial artists of the Myriad Kingdom continent, the higher their cultivation, the lesser their need for food. Therefore, when using things, they paid more attention to the power of martial arts. What if I extract the blood essence of magical beasts into this wine? Yihao closed his eyes and pondered. He despised the wine from his previous life. That's one way. Chun Ziqiao's eyes lit up. Even if it affects the taste of the wine, it's still better than the wine from the Myriad Kingdom continent. I'll leave this matter to you. Our main goal is to earn martial Dao crystals. Yihao directly exchanged a few thousand bottles of martial Dao crystals. Anyway, it didn't cost much reputation points. If it wasn't for the fact that Chun Ziqiao's spatial ring couldn't hold them all, Yihao would have wanted to exchange for more. Yi Hao took out 100 martial Dao crystals and 2 pills from Chun Ziqiao's ring in case of an emergency. I will make it up to you in the future, Yi Hao promised as he returned the ring to Chun Ziqiao. No need, my lord. Chun Ziqiao originally thought that Yi Hao would rob him of all his things. In the end, Yi Hao didn't, which made him feel very relieved. Chun Ziqiao looked at the Erguo 2 in the spatial ring and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, so much. You go and see if it's selling well. If it's selling well, I will send you more, Yi Hao said to Chun Ziqiao. Don't worry, my lord. I will definitely help you earn a lot of martial Dao crystals, Chun Ziqiao promised excitedly. All right, I have a business genius here. If you're too busy, you can look for him. Yi Hao gave the address of Yanhuang City to Chun Ziqiao. Similarly, he had his own secret code. Okay. Chun Ziqiao glanced at the map and kept it in the spatial ring. All right, my lord. This voice transmission talisman is for you. If you need anything, you can send me a message directly. Chun Ziqiao took out a jade token from the spatial ring and handed it to Yi Hao. This is the voice transmission talisman. Yi Hao took the voice transmission talisman. It was just a small white jade token. There was nothing special about it. As long as my lord injects the message into the voice transmission talisman with your spiritual power, I will be able to receive the message. Chun Ziqiao didn't forget to explain to Yi Hao. So magical. Yi Hao was a little surprised. How is this different from the mobile phones in his previous life? Yi Hao immediately said something into the voice transmission talisman. In the next second, the voice transmission talisman in Chun Ziqiao's hand flashed white. Yi Hao immediately took it to check. It really works. Yi Hao saw the message in his mind. It was sent by him. Do you have more of this? Yi Hao immediately asked. If there were enough voice transmission talismans, it would undoubtedly be much more convenient for Yi Hao to control his subordinates. This is only a low-level voice transmission talisman. It costs 20 low-level martial arts spirit stones. I only have 3 pairs. I've already used 1 pair and given it to those 2 beasts. Other than this pair, there's only 1 pair left. Chun Ziqiao immediately took out the remaining pair of voice transmission talismans. All right, I'll have to trouble you to bring this one back to the Flame Dragon Empire and give it to someone called Guan Yu. Yi Hao took out one of the sound transmission talismans and handed the other one back to Chun Ziqiao. Don't worry, my lord. I will do it immediately. Chun Ziqiao said, Okay, I will go first. Be careful. Yi Hao saw that it was getting late and said to Chun Ziqiao, Subordinate respectfully sees you off, my lord. Chun Ziqiao immediately knelt on the ground and said, Yi Hao was not in a hurry to return to the Wanshou sect. Instead, he flew towards Xiechunyu's small courtyard. Who is it? When Yi Hao flew near the small courtyard, he heard Yuan Guopeng shout. Seeing Yi Hao, Yuan Guopeng could not help but let down his guard and asked worriedly, Where have you been? Yesterday, I saw a ray of light and I chased after it. Later, countless experts appeared and I hid. I only rushed back when the experts left. Yi Hao had already made up an excuse and said, So you also went. I actually did not see you. However, the battle afterwards was really thrilling. Later, it seems that the martial god intervened and stopped the battle. Yuan Guopeng did not think much and said with lingering fear, At the beginning, everything was fine. He did not know why the battle suddenly broke out. Even the martial emperor did not dare to intervene, let alone a small Emperor Wu. When he saw that the situation was not right, he immediately ran back. Moreover, that old thing also went. I hope he could be beaten to death. Thinking that the current sect leader also went, Yuan Guopeng could not help but smile and curse. Okay, you two have finished catching up. Now, we should return to the Wanshou sect. Yi Hao saw Yuan Guopeng's fat hand holding Xiechunyu, and Xiechunyu nestled in Yuan Guopeng's embrace. Yi Hao said with a smile. Xiechunyu blushed and said to Yuan Guopeng, Senior Marshal Brother Xia is right. You should go back quickly. Don't arouse that bastard's suspicion. I don't care about the two of you. You two continue chatting. I will go back first. Yi Hao looked at the two of them being intimate and smiled helplessly. Chapter 265. I thought you forgot. Yi Hao said with a smile. Senior brother, you actually did such a thing for me, Xie Chunyu said emotionally, her eyes red. But I have to kill him first, then follow you. Yuan Guopeng said with a serious face. His life was given to him by his master, so he had to avenge his father's death. Do you need help? People like Yuan Guopeng had their own pride, especially when it came to revenge. No need, I can prepare it myself. Yuan Guopeng looked at Yi Hao's cultivation. Although he didn't understand how Yi Hao could fight with a revered martial artist, the current sect leader was at the peak of Emperor Wu. If Yuan Guopeng wasn't a match for him, Yi Hao wouldn't be a match either. Senior brother, I want to kill him with my own hands. Xie Chunyu knew the real murderer of her father and wanted to kill him immediately, but she didn't have the strength to do so. Junior sister, don't mess around. Leave this matter to me. Yuan Guopeng said seriously. He was really worried that Xie Chunyu would be impulsive and really go after the current sect leader. How troublesome. Let me help you kill him, Yi Hao said softly as he watched the two of them fight. Yuan Guopeng and Xie Chunyu looked at Yi Hao suspiciously. Obviously, they didn't believe in Yi Hao's strength. Let's go back to the Thousand Beasts sect. Yi Hao took the lead and flew towards the Thousand Beasts sect. System, I want to summon Emperor Wu, Yi Hao said to the system. The current sect leader of the Thousand Beasts sect was at the peak of Emperor Wu's strength. If Wu Song came, he wouldn't be enough, so he had to summon a general at Emperor Wu's level. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for spending 5 million resurrection points. Congratulations to the host for successfully summoning Zhang Fei. Senior brother, is this Yi Hao reliable? Xie Chunyu grabbed Yuan Guopeng and asked worriedly. Yuan Guopeng was speechless. Didn't you find him? I just got in touch with him. But I'm not familiar with him, Xie Chunyu said embarrassedly. Yuan Guopeng was stunned. Then why are you with him? Who is he? Xie Chunyu hurriedly told him everything. Yuan Guopeng frowned and pondered. Suddenly, he shouted. Emperor Wu's majesty disappeared instantly. What? The emperor of a duchy. Yuan Guopeng could not figure out how the emperor of a duchy, who suddenly received the favor of the heavens and obtained the imperial jade seal, could have a martial honorable under him. But in the end, he was only a person at the bottom of the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. Who is he? Yuan Guopeng had originally guessed that Yi Hao was a descendant of a big family. But now, it seemed that he had no idea if his guess was correct. Whatever, let's go to the 10,000 Beasts sect first. If he can really kill that bastard, we can't miss this opportunity. Yuan Guopeng really couldn't figure it out, so he simply stopped thinking about it. Senior brother, bring me along. I want to go too. Xie Chunyu pleaded to Yuan Guopeng. Yuan Guopeng couldn't refuse and could only agree. Xia Hao, where have you been? The sect master is looking for you. Yi Hao had just returned to the outer sect when Elder Mo immediately came looking for him. Looking for me? Yi Hao was a little surprised. He hadn't gone looking for him yet, but he had come looking for him. Could it be that he had found out that he was with Yuan Guopeng? I think the sect master values your talent. Hurry up and go. You must seize this opportunity. Elder Mo was sincerely happy for Yi Hao. All right, I'll go now. Yi Hao nodded. Following Elder Mo's guidance, he flew in the direction of the sect master's peak. Martial Spirit Realm. Elder Mo was slightly stunned when he saw Yi Hao flying in the air. He had always thought that Yi Hao was only in the Martial King realm. However, only martial spirits could fly in the air, so it could only mean that Yi Hao had reached the martial spirit realm. This kid is really extraordinary. Looking at Yi Hao's back, Elder Mo thought in relief. Yi Hao flew up to the sect master's peak. It was the tallest mountain in the Thousand Beasts sect. A golden hall sat on top of the mountain. Yi Hao had thought that the sect master's peak would be bustling with noise and excitement. However, Yi Hao realized that the sect master's peak was very quiet. There wasn't even a single person. Since you're here, come in. Just as Yi Hao was puzzled, an old voice suddenly came from the depths of the hall. There's something wrong with this voice. Yi Hao listened to this voice. Although it was still so majestic, it seemed to be mixed with weakness. It was as if it was forcefully faked. it was still very different from the previous voice. Yihao walked closer to the golden hall. The entire hall was made of gold. However, it was spacious inside. Bang! Suddenly, there was the sound of a door closing. Yihao turned around and realized that the golden door was already closed. What the hell is this old man doing? Follow me. The doors of the golden hall were closed. The entire hall was dark. Suddenly, a person stood up from the throne and said, "Let's see what you're up to." Yihao's eyes lit up as he followed him. Following the sect master's guidance, Yihao walked into the depths of the hall. He saw a hole in the ground. "Come down." As if he knew that Yihao was hesitating, the sect master's voice came from below. Blood. Could this old man be injured? Yihao unintentionally smelled the scent of blood in the air. Although it had been hidden, Yihao was still able to detect it. "Stop trying to be mysterious. Let's see what you're up to." Yihao was alerted as he stepped into the hole. "Is this guy a rat?" After entering the hole, Yihao realized that there was a long stone staircase. He could only see a few meters ahead of him. There was no light at all. Whoosh! A voice suddenly sounded. Yihao didn't care about anything else and immediately dodged to the side. Bam! An unknown object hit the stone wall, causing some rocks to fall. Martial Spirit Realm. Not bad. The heavens are on my side. It saved me a lot of effort. Suddenly, there was a creepy laughter coming from below. "Old man, what are you doing?" Yihao went closer to the stone wall and realized that the thing that attacked him was a chain as thick as a fist. Not bad. This body is not bad. It's really made for me. The sect master seemed to be talking to himself. He did not pay any attention to Yihao. Damn, this old man. Don't tell me he has some bad habits. Hearing the sect master's words, Yihao could not help but feel a chill. "Kid, come down. I'll teach you some skills." Seeing that Yihao did not dare to come down, the sect master immediately tempted him. After all, when it came to soul stealing, the less the person resisted, the higher the chance of success. Initially, he wanted to train Yihao for a while. After all, Yihao's martial king realm was too low. If it were not for the fact that he was injured again, he would not have acted so hastily. Chapter 266. Guoshang own talent was not very good, and he could only cultivate to the peak of Emperor Wu in his lifetime. Therefore, he was always shrouded in the halo of his senior brother, and his master only favored Xie Chunyu's father. However, he was still diligent until one day his master really decided to hand over the Thousand Beast sect to Xie Chunyu's father. At that time, he was completely enraged, and he wanted to kill his master. One night, when his master was cultivating, he suddenly attacked, and when his master was not paying attention, he killed his master with his own hands. Then, he covered up the truth and attributed his master's death to cultivation deviation, and he successfully became the Thousand Beast Sect's sect master. He originally thought that he could get along well with his senior brother, and he would be the Thousand Beast Sect's peak master, and his senior brother would be the martial peak master. However, things did not go according to plan. His senior brother somehow found out that he killed his master and wanted to cripple his cultivation and chase him out of the Thousand Beast sect. It was not easy for him to become the Thousand Beast Sect's sect master, and the Thousand Beast Sect's resources were all for him to use. How could he be willing to give up all of this? If his cultivation was crippled, not to mention whether his enemies would let him go, he did not even dare to imagine what would happen. He put down his dignity as the sect master and knelt down to beg his senior brother, but his senior brother did not plan to let him go. He once again wanted to kill, but this time it was not so smooth. In the end, he killed his senior brother, but in fact, he was also seriously injured. The reason he let Yuan Guopeng go was not because he was indecisive, but because he could not take out the strength to deal with Yuan Guopeng. But in the end, he used his aura to scare Yuan Guopeng. Although his cultivation base hadn't declined in the past few years, his life force had been rapidly depleted. At most, in another 10 years, he would die. He thought that this was his retribution, and Yuan Guopeng was the only successor of his branch. Because he did not have any disciples, he let go of his killing intent towards Yuan Guopeng. At the same time, he also had the intention of nurturing Yuan Guopeng, and wanted to nurture Yuan Guopeng into the next sect master. Otherwise, Yuan Guopeng would not have been able to develop so smoothly. In the 1000 B sect, Yuan Guopeng was almost the most dignified person besides himself. All of this was under his tacit consent. Just as he was preparing to spend the rest of his life like this, a training experience unexpectedly allowed him to obtain a secret technique. Heaven-defying, soul-stealing art. The more he looked at it, the more pleasantly surprised he became. This was simply a gift from the heavens. As long as he cultivated this heaven-defying soul-seizing art, he could abandon this body and seize a soul to be reborn. Although it was very dangerous, compared to the little life he had left, all the opportunities were worth the risk. Therefore, he cultivated with all his might. A month ago, he finally understood it. After successfully cultivating it, he would need a body whose soul he had seized. He knew that he was ambitious. At his level, he was naturally aware of the importance of talent. That was why he was unwilling to seize an ordinary body. That was why he had asked the elders to accept disciples. Originally, the 1000 Beast sect would not accept disciples so casually, but casting a big net to catch a big fish, all he needed was a genius. Originally, he thought that it would be very good if he could find a genius with 2 upper ranks, who knew that God seemed to really care for him and actually sent him a genius with a perfect physique. Therefore, from that moment on, the person he wanted to seize the soul of was Yi Hao. Although the lower the realm of the person whose soul was seized, the higher the chance of success, he was in the realm of Emperor Wu. He really did not care about the realm of Martial King. Therefore, he wanted to train Yi Hao first. No matter how low he was, he had to be in the realm of Martial Spirit, who knew that when the treasure appeared, in a moment of greed, he would directly trigger his old injury in order to resist the aura of a powerhouse. This undoubtedly forced him to bring forward his plan. Although Yi Hao was only a martial king, with his cultivation experience and Yi Hao's talent, he would definitely be able to quickly return to the realm of Emperor Wu. However, God still cared for him. This Yi Hao actually hid his strength. This was undoubtedly a pleasant surprise for him. All right, Yi Hao smiled sinisterly. He used the art of concealment to completely hide his aura. At the same time, he summoned Zhang Fei. Yi Hao transmitted his voice to Zhang Fei. Zhang Fei, go in front of that old man and kill him. Although Yi Hao believed that Zhang Fei could kill Guoshang Jin, after all, both of them were at the peak of Emperor Wu. Of course, the more convenient it was, the happier Yi Hao would be. Why do I feel that there's something wrong with the aura? When Zhang Fei was summoned, Guoshang Jin sensed the fluctuations in the air and immediately questioned him. Who else is there? Suddenly, the whole cave lit up. Guoshang Jin did not care about anything else and directly attacked Zhang Fei. You old bastard, take this spear of yours. Since he was discovered, Zhang Fei stopped pretending. Fighting to his heart's content was in line with his personality. Zhang Fei roared in anger as he charged forward excitedly. Peak of Emperor Wu. Feeling Zhang Fei's aura exploding out, Guoshang Jin immediately swept towards Zhang Fei's neck. Bang! Their weapons clashed together in an instant. Guoshang Jin was immediately pushed back a few meters, but Zhang Fei was completely fine. He laughed excitedly. Old bastard, you can't do it either. Watch me cut off your head and give it to my master. How could he be so powerful? Although they were both at the peak of Emperor Wu, Guoshang Jin knew that he was no match for Zhang Fei from the exchange just now. He was secretly shocked. Die! Zhang Fei's snake spear attacked Guoshang Jin hundreds of times in a single breath. Although Guoshang Jin could quickly defend himself, his speed was not as good as Zhang Fei's. His body was instantly filled with wounds. Not good. Guoshang Jin felt that if this continued, his old injuries would be triggered, and he would definitely die here. Run! Guoshang Jin made up his mind. He threw the weapon in his hand to Zhang Fei and immediately began to run. Old bastard, you can't do it anymore. Seeing that Guoshang Jin was about to run, Zhang Fei suddenly changed his speed. I've had enough fun. Die! Zhang Fei's snake spear was filled with powerful martial arts power. It slashed down diagonally and slashed through Guo Jin's neck. Bang! Guo Jin's body smashed into the ground. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for injuring Emperor Wu's peak expert. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 million experience. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 500,000 soul points. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the heaven-defying, soul-stealing art. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for leveling up. Current level, Martial Spirit level 9. Zhang Fei's sudden outburst shocked Yi Hao. Sure enough, Third Master Zhang's reputation was not false. At the same level, he could easily crush him. Yi Hao was originally worried that Zhang Fei would not be able to take down Guo Jin in a short period of time. Seeing Guo Jin run away, Yi Hao could not help but feel anxious. He did not expect Zhang Fei to not use his full strength. And now that he had broken through again, Yi Hao sighed. This was 1 million experience points, and only allowed him to level up once. How was he going to live in the future? Chapter 267. This old man is too cunning. He wants to steal my body. Yi Hao finished reading the introduction of the heaven-defying soul-stealing art. No wonder he revealed his talent that day. This old man was weird. He had been confident of defeating him from the very beginning. But this skill was indeed heaven-defying. It could even steal one's soul and be reborn. Although it was cruel and required one to steal an innocent person's body. However, the martial Tao was just that cruel. In the martial Tao, the survival of the fittest and the survival of the strong had become the foregone conclusion of the myriad kingdom continent. Ding dong, learn heaven-defying soul-stealing art? Yes. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for learning. Yi Hao glanced at the skill and kept it in the corner of his space. This old man, as the sect leader of the Thousand Beasts sect, how can he not have anything? Yi Hao walked up to Guo Jin and took his interspatial ring. This old man has quite a lot of things, but they were basically useless to him, and he did not even have any high-level cultivation skills. Yi Hao had already memorized Chun Ziqiao's 3 skills. When he had the time, he would copy them down and give them to Wu Song and the others to cultivate. Oh no, the door is closed. Xia Hao is probably dead. Yuan Guopeng flew back to the Thousand Beasts sect with Xie Chunyu. On the way, he met Elder Mo. After learning that Yi Hao was summoned by the sect leader, the two of them rushed over without stopping. Senior apprentice brother, what should we do? Xie Chunyu asked Yuan Guopeng anxiously as she looked at the closed golden door. No matter what, I can't let him die. Yuan Guopeng's face was solemn as he threw out a punch at the golden door. Boom! There was a loud sound, but the golden door did not budge. Senior apprentice brother, I heard from Dad that there's a formation on this golden hall that can block the attacks of martial grand emperors, Xie Chunyu recalled. Boom! Boom! Yuan Guopeng tried twice more, unwilling to give up. But the golden door still did not budge. What should we do? Yuan Guopeng was very anxious. If he delayed any longer, Yi Hao would be in more danger. Xia Hao, you can't die. As long as you can live, I, Yuan Guopeng, will obey you. Xia Hao, I let you down. You have to live. Xie Chunyu is a kind person. If it weren't for her, Yi Hao wouldn't have gotten involved in this mess. She couldn't help but cup her fists and pray. Are you serious? Suddenly, the golden door opened from the inside, and Yi Hao's hearty laughter rang out. Xia Hao, you're fine. Yuan Guopeng and Li Chia looked at Yi Hao in surprise. He didn't make things difficult for you, right? Yuan Guopeng saw that Yi Hao was fine, so he guessed that Yi Hao didn't fight with Guo Jin. Go down and see for yourself. Seeing Yuan Guopeng's face full of concern, Yi Hao was very pleased. He stepped aside and said to Yuan Guopeng, Senior brother, don't. Xie Chunyu immediately stopped Yuan Guopeng and looked at Yi Hao suspiciously. You didn't betray us and join him, did you? Junior's sister. Don't talk nonsense. Senior apprentice brother, look at him. He's completely fine. If he didn't join Guo Jin, how could... Let me go in and take a look. Yuan Guopeng looked into Yi Hao's eyes and chose to believe Yi Hao. He immediately rushed into the depths of the main hall. I'm not dreaming, right? Yuan Guopeng entered the underground cave and saw Guo Shangjin's decapitated corpse. His face was instantly filled with excitement. Yuan Guopeng was still afraid that it was fake. He immediately checked Guo Shangjin's head. It's really Guo Shangjin. Ha ha! Guo Shangjin is really dead. Master, the enemy who killed you is already dead. Although I didn't commit suicide myself, I've decided to rely on him from now on. Yuan Guopeng fell to his knees with a thud. He spoke to his master's spirit in heaven with tears in his eyes. Senior apprentice brother, Xie Chunyu was still worried. She immediately ran down and was stunned when she saw the corpse on the ground. Junior sister, our enemy is dead, Yuan Guopeng said joyfully. It's true he killed him. Xie Chunyu felt very guilty for doubting Yi Hao just now. Senior apprentice brother, what should we do now? Should we announce Guo Shangjin's death? Xie Chunyu suddenly raised her head and asked after crying for a long time in Yuan Guopeng's arms. No, I don't have full control of the Thousand Beasts sect yet. If we announce Guo Shangjin's death, the Thousand Beasts sect will fall into chaos. Yuan Guopeng quickly denied. Although Martial Peak was the strongest peak in the Thousand Beasts sect, and he was above everyone else, that was because Guo Shangjin was above him. The other peaks did not dare to act recklessly. However, if they knew that Guo Shangjin was dead, they might rebel. By then, the Thousand Beasts sect would only exist in name. Then what should we do? Xie Chunyu wanted nothing more than to live with Yuan Guopeng for the rest of her life. Therefore, she listened to everything Yuan Guopeng said. Junior sister, Xia Hao, is our savior. Yuan Guopeng did not rush to speak. Instead, he looked into Xie Chunyu's eyes and said. Xie Chunyu immediately nodded. Without Yi Hao, she did not know when she and her senior apprentice brother would be able to meet again. She might still hate her senior apprentice brother. As for Guo Shangjin, she did not know when she and her senior apprentice brother would be able to deal with him. However, Yi Hao not only helped them reconcile, but also helped them to avenge their father's death. They could not repay such a great favor. Senior apprentice brother, I'll listen to whatever you decide, Xie Chunyu said helplessly. I want to take control of the Thousand Beasts sect and give it to Xia Hao in one fell swoop. Yuan Guopeng's eyes lit up and said firmly, All right, I'll help you. However, we can give him a greeting gift first, Xie Chunyu said with a smile when she thought of the estrangement between Yi Hao and Elder Wan. Boss, where did you go? I've been looking for you for a long time. Boss, I was so worried. You were gone when I woke up. As soon as Yi Hao returned to the outer sect, I Ching and Wu Hei immediately ran over and asked with concern. The one called Xia Hao, get out here. Just as Yi Hao was about to speak, an arrogant voice interrupted him. Him? Yi Hao frowned slightly, and a trace of dissatisfaction flashed across his face. I am. Who are you? Yi Hao turned to look at the arrogant young man and realized that he did not know him. You don't have a right to know who I am. Go to hell, bastard. The young man shouted to his followers, Kill that bastard for me. Seeing that the young man was looking for trouble with Yi Hao, a group of curious disciples quickly gathered around. Isn't that senior apprentice brother Li Yin? Why is he looking for trouble with a newcomer? This newcomer is in trouble. Senior apprentice brother Li Yin is one of the top disciples in the outer sect. Chapter 268. He, the main character, is here. Looking at the person flying over, Yi Hao couldn't help but sneer in his heart. He didn't even know Li Yan. Unless there was something wrong with Li Yan's head, why would he find trouble with him? Then there was only one possibility, and that was someone instigated him. Greetings, Elder Bai. Seeing the person who came, all the outer sect disciples immediately bowed respectfully. Little friend Xia Hao, how have you been recently? Do you have any needs? This old man can help you. Bai Qingshang had returned to the Thousand Beasts sect and hadn't come to find Yi Hao for a long time. It wasn't because he had forgotten about Yi Hao. It was because he had been thinking about the white dragon elephant. So when he returned to the Thousand Beasts sect, he locked himself in the library. Finally, his hard work paid off. He found the introduction of the white dragon elephant scales. After comparing them, although the scales weren't fully grown, They were very close to dragon scales. This discovery made his heart skip a beat. In a world of 10,000 countries, the dragon clan was the noblest. Even the martial god might not be able to obtain a giant dragon. Not to mention him, a little elder of a supreme sect. Although the white dragon elephant wasn't part of the dragon clan. But the white dragon elephant had the bloodline of the dragon. Just based on this point, the white dragon elephant's potential was limitless. It was stronger than ordinary magical beasts. So he was determined to get it. But he knew clearly that Yi Hao was amenable to coaxing, but not coercion. If he tried to snatch it, he wouldn't be able to keep his face. So he came up with an idea. So there was this scene where Li Yin found trouble with Yi Hao. Then, he stood out to help Yi Hao at the right time. Finally, he promised Yi Hao some conditions and asked for the white dragon elephant from Yi Hao. This was undoubtedly the best plan. Unfortunately, the person he met wasn't anyone else but Yi Hao. His plan was destined to go down the drain. Elder Bai, is there any meaning in doing this? Now that the Thousand Beasts sect was no longer a threat to him, Yi Hao asked without hesitation. What do you mean? Bai Qingshang was obviously caught off guard by Yi Hao's question. Look for these trash to direct and act out their own show. Yi Hao looked at Li Yin and the others and moved his lips. Brat, who are you calling trash? Believe it or not, I'll kill you. When they heard Yi Hao call them trash, many of them flew into a rage. No matter what, they were still outer sect elite disciples. Now that they were being called trash by a newbie, even if they could tolerate it, they couldn't. If not for the presence of Bai Qingshang, this group of people would have chopped Yi Hao into pieces. Bai Qingshang narrowed his eyes and stared at Yi Hao. Realizing that Yi Hao was not afraid of him, he could not help but flick his sleeves and leave angrily. You really don't know what's good for you. When Bai Qingshang left, he didn't forget to give Li Yin a look. Li Yin immediately expressed his understanding. Brothers, this brat dared to call us trash. Let's show him who's the trash. Li Yin looked at Bai Qingshang's departure and immediately stirred up the crowd's emotions. Brothers, let's kill this trash and show him who's boss. Whoever dares to touch my boss, I'll fight it out with him. Boss, take a rest first and watch our performance. Without waiting for Yi Hao to speak, I Ching and Wu Hei immediately tangled with the crowd. Yi Hao did not intend to make a move. He should let I Ching and Wu Hei have some actual combat experience. Yi Hao could see that although these outer sect disciples were clamoring fiercely, they did not dare to kill. That meant that I Ching and Wu Hei's lives would not be in danger. Damn, you brat are too sinister. You actually pinched me. A disciple painfully covered his crotch and cursed at I Ching. Oh, my little chrysanthemum. Suddenly, another disciple covered his crotch and wailed in pain. Gently, it's broken, broken. I don't want to fight anymore. This brat is too despicable. Yi Hao smiled as he looked at everything in front of him. I Ching was constantly moving around the crowd and constantly using underhanded moves. This brat is too wretched. Looking at I Ching's smiling face, Yi Hao shook his head and smiled bitterly. Fortunately, Wu Hei was still following the rules and used some martial arts from time to time. Little Hei, you can't fight like this. You have to learn from me. I Ching was like a wretched delinquent and did not forget to guide Wu Hei. I don't know. Looking at I Ching's wretched actions, Wu Hei's face turned red and said embarrassedly, "What's there to not know? Watch me," I Ching said with a wretched smile. Oh, it's broken. When Li Yin saw his subordinates groaning under I Ching's torture, he shouted with a gloomy expression, "Capture that brat first and break his balls." I Ching heard Li Yan's words and looked at the people around her. They had given up on attacking Wu Hei and were all looking at her with anger and resentment. I Ching could not help but feel her crotch tighten. "Boss, save me." I Ching pushed someone away and immediately ran to Yi Hao for help. "Stay away from me." Yi Hao kicked I Ching's butt and looked at her hands with disdain. Don't the people of this world know how to appreciate the joy in this? I Ching pretended to be thoughtful and said, "All of you fall." Since these disciples did not attack him, Yi Hao spared their lives. But while they could escape death, they could not escape punishment. Since they had provoked him, they had to pay the price. Bam! Pon! Yi Hao was like a phantom wandering among the disciples, attacking each and every one of their ribs. As long as they were hit by Yi Hao's fist, 3 of their ribs would be broken. It was inevitable that they would be bedridden for a month or 2. This newbie is so strong. Wait a minute. His name is Xia Hao. Could he be the genius with the upper-grade talent and supreme-grade physique? I feel like I've been won over by his dominance. Brother, my dear brother, I also want to be boss's follower. Brother, my chrysanthemum is also new. But when the outer sect disciples saw how easily Yi Hao defeated Li Yan's followers, they immediately ran to I Ching to flatter her. Cough, cough. Those who want to be boss's follower, come to me and register. I will personally assess you. My name is I Ching. You can call me Brother E. This is Brother He. Seeing the disciples surrounding her, I Ching was very proud. She put her hands behind her back and pretended to be the boss. Wu Hei immediately hid far away from I Ching as if he did not know her. Brother E, pick me. I can give birth to your babies. Brother E, I can warm your bed. One by one, the disciples shouted at I Ching. Some of them even made shy expressions and threw flirtatious glances at I Ching. I think I've gone too far. Why do these people look so weird? I Ching blushed with shame as she thought about it. He looked at each and every man, trying to pretend to be a woman. I Ching almost couldn't hold back the urge to vomit. Chapter 269. What should I do? Li Yan watched as Yi Hao displayed his invincible might. Yi Hao exuded an unparalleled, domineering aura, causing him to feel a chill down his spine. He also did not expect that Yi Hao actually concealed his strength so well and had such a powerful cultivation base. But Elder Bai promised that as long as he killed Yi Hao, not only would he be able to enter the inner sect, but his family would also be able to choose 10 more people to enter the Wanshou sect. His family had been in decline for the past few years. He needed these 10 spots, and he also wanted to enter the inner sect. Let's do it. After thinking about it, Li Yan decided to fight this round, because the opportunity was fleeting. If he lost this chance, he might not have another chance like this. Li Yan quietly took out his weapon and rushed toward Yi Hao at the right time. This attack made use of his long combat experience, because he was eager for this opportunity. You're courting death. Yi Hao's voice sank as he sensed the killing intent behind him. Killing Earth Palm. You really don't know what's good for you. Yi Hao's palm landed on Li Yan's spiritual artifact, which instantly turned into nothingness. Then, his palm landed on Li Yan's chest. Boom! A powerful force instantly entered Li Yan's body. How could Li Yan withstand an Earth rank martial skill? His body was instantly shattered. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for slaying a rank 1 martial spirit. Congratulations to the host for gaining 1,000 experience points and 1,000 soul points. Senior brother. Seeing Li Yan's death, many of the disciples on the ground began to cry. You brought this upon yourself. Yi Hao said softly. If Li Yan did not want to kill him, he would not have done so either. Senior brother, it's for his family. Otherwise, he would not have wanted to kill you. A disciple suddenly held back his tears and said to Yi Hao, What did you say? It seemed that this Li Yan had quite a good reputation among the disciples. Otherwise, he would not have died and there would be people crying for him. Yi Hao was curious about the disciple's words. After listening to his disciple's explanation, Yi Hao could not help but nod his head. This Li Yan is indeed a man. For the sake of the family, he is quite responsible. But he has done wrong, so he has to pay the price. Of course, Yi Hao wouldn't think that he had killed the wrong person just because of Li Yan's sense of responsibility. He just admired Li Yan's sense of responsibility. Since he wanted to kill him, even if he was a hero in the eyes of others, he would still kill him. All right, get lost. Yi Hao waved his hand impatiently. He still had to settle the score with Elder Bai. Since they had found someone to deal with him, then they shouldn't blame him for being impolite. The group of disciples, supported each other as they stood up. The disciple who spoke at the beginning suddenly stopped. What? You want to avenge him? I will accompany you any time. Yi Hao's voice was cold. His eyes shot out a dignified light, intimidating everyone. We want to acknowledge you as our boss, the disciple suddenly said. The survival of the fittest in a world of 10,000 kingdoms was the law of survival, no matter where it was. The Thousand Beasts sect was no exception. There were fights between each peak. The outer sect was divided into several groups, and there were still fights. Li Yan's strength in the outer sect was not bad, so his group was not bullied by others. But now that Li Yan was dead, there was no one to support them. Their future days would not be easy. I killed Li Yan. Are you still willing to submit to me? Yi Hao raised his eyebrows and asked with a light smile. Actually, you are a good person. Otherwise, you wouldn't have acted so appropriately. If senior brother Li Yan didn't want to kill you, I believe you wouldn't have killed him. And you are so strong. We all need a backing. The disciples spoke the truth. Because Yi Hao's palm just now made them unable to resist. If Yi Hao was really a sinister person, even if he didn't kill them, he would at least beat them half to death. There was no way he would only break 3 ribs. You guys think so too? Yi Hao looked at the disciples who were supporting each other and asked softly. All the disciples immediately nodded. Ding dong, congratulations to the host. Reputation +1. Ding dong, congratulations to the host. Reputation +1. Yi Hao checked the system in his mind. As usual, each person could only obtain 1 reputation, but these people's loyalty was around 60. In other words, they were neutral. They just wanted to find a backing. Because only when their loyalty was above 80 could he obtain resurrection points and experience. Actually, you had to know that it would be good if he could make these people's loyalty reach around 60. After all, these disciples had been with Li Yan for so long and had some feelings for him. If it wasn't for Yi Hao being a good person in their opinion, they would probably have hated him. Forget it. For my resurrection points and reputation, I will accept them. Yi Hao made up his mind. Since you want to be my follower, then there is a rule. Yi Hao's gaze swept across the disciples sternly. That is, you cannot betray me. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Yi Hao's tone was so domineering that the disciples didn't dare to look at him directly. I Ching, boss. Hearing Yi Hao's call, I Ching immediately pushed away the crowd and ran to Yi Hao, waiting for Yi Hao's orders. These disciples will be under your management from now on. Yi Hao knew I Ching well. Although she was usually sloppy, there was no problem for her to manage these disciples. I Ching's face lit up. Thank you, boss. I will definitely train them. I will manage them properly. All right, I have something to do. You guys take these and cultivate. Yi Hao took out some cultivation methods and martial arts techniques. They were all of the mystic and yellow rank. To him, they were useless. These were only the tip of the iceberg of all the cultivation methods and martial arts techniques in Guoshangjin's ring. Yi Hao really didn't understand. Guoshangjin was at the peak of Emperor Wu. Other than the heaven-defying soul-stealing technique, he didn't have a single good cultivation method or martial arts technique. They were all low-level secret manuals. He didn't know if this old guy had a hobby of collecting low-level cultivation methods and martial arts techniques. It's actually cultivation methods and martial arts techniques. Oh my God, there's even a mystic rank cultivation method. I'm not dreaming, am I? Boss is too domineering. One had to know that they were outer sect disciples. At most, they could cultivate yellow rank cultivation methods and martial arts techniques. Mystic rank cultivation methods and martial arts techniques were all cultivated by inner sect disciples and disciples of the various peaks. They could only be envious and envious. They didn't expect Yi Hao to take out so many at once. It made them feel like they were dreaming. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for subduing an 8th level martial king warrior. The host has gained 800 experience points and 800 resurrection points. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for subduing a 1st level martial king warrior. The host has gained 100 experience points and 100 resurrection points. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for increasing reputation points by 1. In an instant, the loyalty of many disciples directly exceeded 80 points. A happy voice sounded in Yi Hao's mind. Chapter 270. Bai Qingshang, get out here. Yi Hao flew to Bai Qingshang's residence and shouted domineeringly in the air. Who is this person? How dare he be so impudent in Elder Bai's residence? He actually dares to call Elder Bai by his name. Yeah, this kid is finished. Some disciples looked at Yi Hao in the air and discussed noisily. Little friend Xia Hao, I wonder what business you have with me? Bai Qingshang was a little surprised that Yi Hao was still alive. He flew out and chuckled. So you have been hiding your strength. No wonder you could kill Guahai in seconds. Looking at Yi Hao flying in the air, Bai Qingshang suddenly realized something. Bai Qingshang, is this what you want? Yi Hao asked with a sneer while holding a purple-red jade token in his hand. Bai Qingshang smiled and said, This old man is very curious about your white elephant. As long as you give it to this old man, you can name any conditions you want. I'm afraid I can't afford it. Yi Hao looked at the hypocritical smile on Bai Qingshang's face, and his eyes were full of disgust. Oh, little friend Xia Hao, tell me, what conditions can I not afford? Bai Qingshang thought that Yi Hao was going to ask for an exorbitant price. Your dog life. Yi Hao threw the purple-red jade token at Bai Qingshang and suddenly attacked him. You dare to play with this old man? Do you think this old man's patience is limitless? Bai Qingshang took the purple-red jade token and found that it was an empty jade token. He couldn't help but be furious. 1,000 palm leaves. Bai Qingshang shouted and used a martial skill. Suddenly, a rich martial power condensed around his body and turned into thousands of maple leaves, covering the sky and covering the earth as they rushed towards Yi Hao. Competing martial skills? Yi Hao laughed. This 1,000 palm leaves was in Guoshang Jin's interspatial ring. It was a high-grade profound class martial skill. Ding dong, do you want to learn 1,000 palm leaves? Yes. Ding dong, congratulations to host for learning successfully. Everyone looked at the overwhelming power of the maple leaves and immediately flew to the side. This is a high-grade profound level martial skill. As long as an elder is able to learn it, he will be able to release over 1,000 attacks. Elder Bai has actually practiced it to the point of perfection. This brat is finished. He's actually standing there without moving. Isn't he courting death? I reckon that this kid was scared silly by such a big battle array. 1,000 falling leaves palms? I know it too. Yi Hao immediately used 1,000 falling leaves palms. Moreover, the speed of Yi Hao's 1,000 fallen leaves palms had caught up with Bai Qingshang. How is this possible? This brat also knows the falling leaves 1,000 palms. Isn't that the only way for elders to learn it? And this kid's 1,000 falling leaves palms is even more proficient than Elder Bai. Could it be that this kid is a hidden elder of the sect? Xia Hao, how did you learn the 1,000 falling leaves palms? Seeing Yi Hao quickly form the 1,000 falling leaves palms, Bai Qingshang asked in shock. His brain couldn't help but short-circuit, almost causing the 1,000 falling leaves palms to collapse. Fortunately, he managed to stop it in time. He seems to be a new outer sect disciple. Look at his waist tag. As a member of the 1,000 Beast sect, regardless of their identity, they must carry their identity tag. Yi Hao had casually taken it with him and had not removed it until now. How can a new disciple be on par with Elder Bai? Are you kidding me? Why do I feel like I'm doubting my life? After knowing Yi Hao's identity, the audience suddenly boiled up again. This old man will fight with you. Seeing Yi Hao also know the falling leaves 1,000 palms, Bai Qingshang couldn't wait any longer and released his own 1,000 falling leaves palms. The falling leaves 1,000 falling leaf palms that were originally still around Bai Qingshang instantly turned into a maple leaf filled with lead and attacked Yi Hao. Take it that I'm afraid of you. Seeing that Bai Qingshang had made a move, Yi Hao's hand moved, and the thousands of palms around him struck towards Bai Qingshang. Bang, bang, bang. The two's falling leaves 1,000 falling palms collided in an instant. How is this possible? Bai Qingshang was shocked. Although Yi Hao was very proficient in using the falling leaves 1,000 falling palms, in the end, it was still a competition of cultivation. Bai Qingshang was a third-level martial revered, while Yi Hao was only a martial spirit. No matter how he looked at it, he had the advantage. However, When the two palms collided and consumed each other's energy, the first to collapse was his own falling leaves 1,000 palms. How could he accept this? He didn't know that although Yi Hao was a 9th-level martial spirit, every time Yi Hao broke through, he had to break through to the 11th level of each realm. The martial path strength that he had accumulated was naturally not long and strong. Not to mention that he was a 3rd-level martial revered. Even if Yi Hao was a 6th-level martial revered, he would still have the power to fight. Seeing that Yi Hao was actually slightly stronger than him, the surrounding disciples were all shocked, and their faces were filled with deep admiration. So strong. He's really a role model for our generation. So handsome. Why do I feel like I've fallen in love with him? Is this still a new outer sect disciple? Why am I not even a fart compared to him? Don't ask me why I'm kneeling to watch the duel, because I'm completely convinced. This young master has played with you enough. Killing Earthpalm. Taking advantage of the fact that Bai Qingshang was still in the illusion, Yi Hao directly used the killing Earthpalm. Suddenly, a strong martial power gathered. Die. Bai Qingshang only cared about dodging Yi Hao's falling leaves 1,000 falling palms because his own falling leaves 1,000 falling palms had already been shattered by Yi Hao's falling leaves 1,000 falling palms. Although there was not much martial power left in the remaining 1,000 falling palms, he had to be careful when facing thousands of palms attacking him at the same time. Therefore, he was easily hit by Yi Hao's killing earth palm. Puff! Bai Qingshang felt a strong power flowing in his body. He immediately suppressed it, but it was useless. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Earth-level martial skill. Bai Qingshang clearly knew that only an Earth-level martial skill could produce such a strong attack. Bai Qingshang, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too greedy. Yi Hao coldly looked at Bai Qingshang and said, "Go in peace." Yi Hao waved his sleeve, and the remaining hundreds of palms in the air instantly attacked Bai Qingshang, as if they had received his order. "No, this is the 1,000 Beast sect, you can't kill me." He used all his strength to suppress the killing earth palm in his body. Because the killing earth palm was continuously devouring his tendons and meridians, as well as the strength in his body. Normally, he would not be afraid of these hundreds of palms. He would definitely be able to dodge them. But now it was extremely difficult for him to even move, not to mention diverting his attention to fight against the hundreds of palms. Xiao, stop. Do you really think that there's no one in my beast peak? Just when the hundreds of palms were about to land on Bai Qingshang's body, the beast peak master suddenly came out to stop them. Seeing the peak master appear, Bai Qingshang could not help but let out a sigh of relief. "Save me, peak master." "Xiao, this peak master orders you to kneel down and admit your mistake. This peak master will spare your life, but at the same time, you must join the beast peak." The beast peak master said overbearingly, "You really think you are a big shot?" Yi Hao sneered disdainfully. "You die first." Yi Hao's voice faded, and hundreds of palms attacked Bai Qingshang at the same time. No, Bai Qingshang was scared out of his wits. He did not expect that Yi Hao would dare to attack him when the peak master appeared. He could only watch the hundreds of palms attack him. This was undoubtedly the greatest torture. Chapter 271. There's nothing I don't dare to do. Yi Hao was dismissive of the beast peak master's words. Hundreds of palms landed on Bai Qingshang's body like raindrops. Bai Qingshang immediately vomited blood. Boom! Bai Qingshang could no longer control the power in his body and died. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for killing a martial honorable. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 170,000 experience points. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 170,000 soul points. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 reputation point. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 reputation point. In the 10,000 Kingdoms continent, the strong were respected. Seeing Yi Hao killing Bai Qingshang without any fear, he instantly attracted the admiration of many disciples. "Can't you hear what I said? Or do you really think that I can't bear to kill you?" He had warned Yi Hao time and time again, but Yi Hao ignored his words. This was undoubtedly a slap to his face. But if he were to kill Yi Hao, he would really be reluctant. After all, Yi Hao was a disciple with a peerless body constitution. Such a body constitution could only be found by chance. If he were to be nurtured, he would definitely be able to stand at the top of the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. He would be one of the strongest in the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. Kill, or don't kill. The Beast Peak Master hesitated. On one side was an arrogant genius, and on the other side was his prestige among the disciples. How should he choose? Sileave, don't step into my Beast Peak. This is my bottom line, unless you join my Beast Peak. The Beast Peak Master sighed and said in a deep voice. He was a person who loved talents. He couldn't bear to destroy a genius with his own hands. Ugh! As the Beast Peak Master was a peak martial honorable, he was definitely not a match for him. He was prepared to summon Wu Song at any time, but he didn't expect the Beast Peak Master to make such a decision. The Beast Peak Master didn't know that he had saved his own life by sparing Yi Hao's life. If he were to attack, he would end up like Bai Qingshang. Yi Hao looked deeply at the Beast Peak Master and asked curiously, "Why? Actually, I really want to kill you. After all, you killed my elder in my territory and didn't give me any face in front of my disciple. But I don't want a prodigy to fall before he can rise." The Beast Peak's Peak Master spoke the truth. His cold voice rang in Yi Hao's mind. "You're pretty decent. Why don't you be my underling?" Yi Hao transmitted his voice to the Beast Peak Master. "We'll talk about it when you're strong enough." The Beast Peak's Peak Lord replied with a smile. "Goodbye." Yi Hao clasped his fist towards the Beast Peak leader and said. At the same time, he flew towards the direction of the inner sect. Today, he was going to settle all his grudges together. Peak Master, we can't let this kid leave just like that. Peak Master, Elder Bai can't die in vain. Peak Lord, this brat is too arrogant. We should teach him a lesson. Seeing Yi Hao leaving in such a carefree manner, many elders and disciples could not help but feel their stomachs burning with anger as they pleaded with the Beast Peak Master. "Shut up. I didn't see any of you make a move just now. I'll make a decision on this matter," the Beast Peak Master said resentfully. At the beginning, Bai Qingshang was at a disadvantage. Everyone was observing the situation quietly. No one was willing to make a move for Bai Qingshang. Now that Yi Hao had left, they started to clamor again. Of course, there were also some admirers of Yi Hao among them. "This guy is going to be my boss in the future. He didn't even give face to anyone. That's too cool. To be able to leave safely after killing an elder. He's my idol." "Elder One, Elderly, get out here." Yi Hao had already asked for the addresses of several people. Yi Hao immediately flew to the sky above the outer sect. His voice resounded throughout the inner sect. "Who are you? Why are you looking for Elder One?" A disciple stood out and questioned Yi Hao. "I'm here to deliver a gift to your Elder One. You better keep it well." Looking at the solemn faces of the disciples, Yi Hao released the corpses of Feng Yu and the rest and threw them down. "Hurry up and catch them." Looking at the 3 corpses falling from the sky, the disciple had a bad feeling. However, he reacted quickly and shouted to the disciples beside him. The disciples immediately reached out and caught the corpses. Feng Yu, Han Bang, and senior brother Zhu Yi. Looking at the 3's attire and the badges on their waists, and Zhu Yi's face wasn't disfigured, the disciple couldn't help but ask, "Hurry up and get the elder." The disciple started to panic and immediately shouted to the disciples beside him, "Where are my disciples?" After receiving the disciples' report, Elder One instantly rushed out. "Disciples, I've let you down." Looking at the corpses of his 3 beloved disciples, Elder One was heartbroken. "Xia Hao, are you the one who killed them?" Elder One suddenly raised his head. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with hatred as he looked at Yi Hao. "Don't worry. You have to accompany them later." "Where's Elderly?" Yi Hao looked around but didn't see Elderly. "Disciples, listen up. Take down this bastard." Elder One pointed at Yi Hao in grief and indignation and ordered the disciples loudly. "Yes," the disciples shouted in unison. The martial spirit realm cultivators immediately took out their weapons and flew in the air to surround Yi Hao. "Hold on. What happened here?" Suddenly, three people walked over from afar. It was Yuan Guopeng and Xie Chunyu. However, elderly followed behind them. Greetings, Peak Master. All the disciples immediately put away their weapons and landed on the ground. Even Elder One stood up and bowed respectfully to Yuan Guopeng. The inner sect was managed by the sect master. However, Yuan Guopeng had been in charge of it all these years. Hence, Yuan Guopeng was almost the sect master of the inner sect. Peak Master, please help us. Elder One immediately knelt at Yuan Guopeng's feet. What do you need me to do for you? Yuan Guopeng said playfully. Originally, he wanted to bring Elder Li and Elder One to Yi Hao and let Yi Hao deal with them personally. However, he and Xie Chunyu went to find Elder Li first. They had just arrived at the inner sect when Yi Hao was even faster than them. Reporting to Peak Master, this beast killed 3 of my beloved disciples. Similarly, they were all elite disciples of the inner sect. But now, they were killed for no apparent reason. Please, Peak Master, I. But why did he kill your disciples? Yuan Guopeng glanced at Elder One and asked. This, Elder One didn't know how to answer. He couldn't possibly say that he had sent his disciples to kill Yi Hao. In the end, not only did Yi Hao fail, he even lost his own life. Peak Master, you may not know this. This Yi Hao is arrogant, rude, and unruly. Just because Senior Brother One said a few words to him in Beast King City, he held a grudge. Chapter 272. Yi Hao looked at Elderly quietly. It was a pity that this Elderly was not a scriptwriter. His ability to lie through his teeth had reached the pinnacle. With just a few words, he had made Yi Hao to be an unpardonable villain and Elder One to be a magnanimous person. This Yi Hao is too much. How can such a vicious person stay in the Thousand Beasts sect? Maybe he's a bloodthirsty maniac who will attack us one day. Peak Master, please kill this person personally. The surrounding disciples clearly believed Elder Li's lies. Each and every one of them discussed spiritedly, all treating Yi Hao as a sinner. Is that so? Yuan Guopeng asked calmly. It's absolutely true. Elder Li and Elder One looked at each other and said with certainty. With joy in their eyes, they hoped that Yuan Guopeng would kill Yi Hao quickly. But reality was always a little different enough. As elders, you too framed your disciples and wanted to kill them. Do you really think I don't know? Yuan Guopeng suddenly shouted coldly. Elder Li's expression changed. Peak Master Yuan, what are you talking about? Don't accuse a good person just because you're powerful. Accuse a good person. Yuan Guopeng sneered. Don't think I don't know that you changed the disciple during the assessment. I don't think I need to say anything more about this. Also, Fang Yu and Han Corporation went to the outer sect to look for Xia Hao with swords. How do you explain this? Hearing Yuan Guopeng's words, the crowd started discussing again. There's such a thing? Could it be that Elder One and the others really wanted to kill Xia Hao? Instead of Xia Hao, the one who died was their disciple? As elders, aren't they going too far with their bullying? I did change the examiner, but that was with the approval of the sect master. Moreover, my disciple went to look for Xia Hao to invite him to be my disciple. As for the weapon, there's nothing wrong with that. Elder One did not understand. He was an inner sect elder and had always been helping Yuan Guopeng. Why would Yuan Guopeng help Yi Hao and turn against him? Although he couldn't figure it out, he couldn't bear the crime of harming a disciple. Therefore, he immediately retorted, "That's right. Can Peak Master Yuan show any evidence?" Elderly asked proudly. "The proof is your disciples. They were all killed by me because I saw them chasing after Xia Hao. I warned them again and again, but they didn't listen, so I could only take action." Yuan Guopeng threw caution to the wind. He had long since sentenced the two elders to death in his heart. The reason why he said so much was to give an explanation to the disciples present. What? Elder Wan and Elder Li's expressions changed. They didn't expect Yuan Guopeng to be the culprit. The two elders looked at each other. Run. Yuan Guopeng was obviously looking for trouble. If he stayed any longer, his life would be in danger. Therefore, he had no time to delay in escaping. Try to run? Seeing the two of them trying to escape, Yuan Guopeng's face flashed with a mocking smile. He instantly rushed towards Elder Wan and grabbed him. "Peak Master, please spare my life." Elder Wan's face was pale as he struggled to beg for mercy. Yuan Guopeng ignored Elder Wan's pleas. He increased the strength in his hand and instantly snapped Elder Wan's neck. "Don't come over, or my foster father won't let you go." Elderly was forced into a corner by Yuan Guopeng. He could only bring out Guoshangjin. If Elderly was able to become an inner sect elder at such a young age, he definitely had a strong background. This background was Guoshangjin. However, he didn't know that Guoshangjin had already been killed. Your foster father? Yuan Guopeng stopped in his tracks. He didn't know that Guoshangjin was Elder Li's foster father. That's right. My foster father is the sect master. Do you still dare to kill me? Seeing Yuan Guopeng stop, Elderly couldn't help but say proudly, "Ha ha!" Yuan Guopeng suddenly laughed. "What are you laughing at?" Elderly felt guilty. He didn't understand why Yuan Guopeng was laughing. "I don't care who your foster father is. Die." Yuan Guopeng suddenly exploded and punched Elder Li's head. Elder Li's head instantly burst open like a watermelon. Even until his death, Elderly didn't understand why Yuan Guopeng dared to attack him when he had already revealed his trump card. "I don't care what your trump card is. If you make a mistake, I'll kill you." Yuan Guopeng retracted his fist and said sternly, "The Peak Master is mighty." All the disciples were stunned and shouted with respect. This Yuan Guopeng wasted my experience and even let him show off. Yi Hao couldn't wait to kick Yuan Guopeng's butt. From now on, Xia Hao will be an inner sect elder. He will replace Elder Li and Elder Wan's positions. Yuan Guopeng suddenly announced loudly. Suddenly, Yuan Guopeng's words attracted everyone's attention. All the disciples looked at Yi Hao with burning eyes. Why? He's just an outer sect disciple. What qualifications does he have to be an inner sect elder? That's right. Isn't that elder highly respected? What qualifications does a young boy like him have? Peak Master, please take back your order. Otherwise, we won't accept it. The disciples below were in an uproar as they questioned him. Peak Master Yuan, please take back your order. You should choose someone else. Yi Hao said to Yuan Guopeng with a fist salute. Although this Yuan Guopeng might be doing it for his own good, Yi Hao wasn't interested in being an elder at all. He was only interested in taking back the Thousand Beasts sect. All right then. Yuan Guopeng didn't expect the disciples to react so strongly. He could only agree. What a coward. Look at him. He doesn't even dare to be an elder. Is this Xia Hao stupid? If it were me, I would be an elder. He's not stupid. He just doesn't have the strength. I'm definitely going to be an inner sect elder today. Yi Hao wanted to leave, but when he heard the disciples' mocking words, he was instantly enraged. Yuan Guopeng didn't expect Yi Hao to suddenly think things through. After all, he had already decided to follow Yi Hao. If not for the fact that he hadn't taken control of the Thousand Beasts sect, he would have been willing to be the sect leader, let alone an inner sect elder. He would have been willing to be Yi Hao's sect leader. However, there were still some problems that had yet to be solved. The time wasn't right yet. However, Yuan Guopeng couldn't stand Yi Hao's status as an outer sect disciple. Hence, he wanted to pass the inner sect to Yi Hao. Because the inner sect wasn't weaker than the other peaks. If he took full control of the inner sect, Yihao's status would be equivalent to a peak leader. At that time, he would take over the outer sect and take down the other peaks one by one. Then, he would take control of the Thousand Beast Peak and push Yihao to the position of the Thousand Beast sect leader. This was Yuan Guopeng's plan. Go ahead if you want to be an elder. I'll be the first to object. Me too. Why don't you take a look at yourself? You're not even fully grown yet, and you want to be an elder? Stop dreaming. Chapter 273. Yihao landed on the training field of the inner sect disciples and announced domineeringly, "Come, everyone who can defeat me will have the inner sect elder position. You don't have the final say. Peak Master Yuan has to say it." When the disciples heard Yihao's words, they were dazzled. This was the position of inner sect elder. As long as they defeated Yihao, it would be within their reach. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. All right, let's do it. Yuan Guopeng was confident in Yihao's strength. Even the sect master was killed. How could Yihao lose to this group of inner sect disciples who were crying piteously for food? Looking at the excited inner sect disciples, Yuan Guopeng's eyes were filled with pity. But this was what they asked for. A new outer sect disciple challenged an inner sect disciple. This news instantly spread throughout the Thousand Beast sect. Countless disciples and elders rushed over to watch. Brother He, boss is challenging all the inner sect disciples. I Ching and Wu He were cultivating with their disciples when a disciple ran over to report. Damn, boss is too domineering. Boss, you're so awesome. The group of disciples were shocked. They didn't expect boss to challenge the inner sect disciples in such a short time. Did he have to be so domineering? That's nothing. I've just received news that boss used 1,000 falling leaf palms to kill Elder Bai. That lackey once again said astonishingly. Brothers, let's go and cheer for boss. I Ching raised her arms and shouted. She led more than 100 outer sect disciples and rushed to the inner sect. This Yihao is too restless. And this Yuan Guopeng, what the hell is he doing? The Beast Peak Master frowned when he heard the elder's report. How's that Guiyin? The Beast Peak Master remembered that Guiyin hadn't left the Beast Egg Mountain for a long time and asked. Reporting to Peak Master, that girl has great talent in beast appraising. She has already appraised 2 rank 6 demonic beasts. The elder said excitedly when Guiyin was mentioned. What? Hearing that Guiyin had appraised 2 rank 6 demonic beasts, the Beast Peak Master was shocked. Don't disturb her, let her do it herself, the Beast Peak Master said after some thought. Come, let's go to the inner sect and see if that brat Xiahao can become an elder. The Beast Peak Master flew towards the outer sect. Similar to the peak leader of the Beast Peak, the other peak leaders immediately made their way to the inner disciples. What's going on? Everyone rushed to the inner sect and was instantly stunned by the scene in front of them. Hundreds of inner sect disciples were lying on the ground around the training grounds, wailing in pain. Some of the disciples were too afraid to move forward. Only Yihao was left standing on the training grounds. Boss, this is too awesome. I Ching brought a group of little brothers and rushed to the inner sect, but the battle had already ended. Who else is not convinced? Yihao asked loudly. Although these inner sect disciples were stronger than the outer sect disciples, they were basically all in the martial spirit realm. Almost no one could last a single round against him. Almost all the inner disciples were thrown out by Yihao. Do you guys still want to fight? In the direction that Yihao was pointing at, there were dozens of disciples. When they saw Yihao pointing at them, they immediately retreated in fear. No one dared to move forward. Don't be arrogant. When the top 10 disciples of the inner sect come out, you'll suffer. An inner sect disciple was afraid, but he still mustered up his courage and said, if there were no accidents, the top 10 disciples of the inner sect would all become elders in the future. If he was lucky, it was not impossible for him to become a peak master. In order to become one of the top 10 disciples of the inner sect, the first condition was to become a martial honorable. Fang Yu and Han Bang, who were killed by Wu Song, were the top 10 disciples of the outer sect. Moreover, they were the bottom 10 disciples of the outer sect. Normally, the top 10 disciples would have their own matters to attend to and would not show up. However, at this critical moment, the top 10 disciples would definitely appear. Who dares to challenge my inner sect? Do you really think that there's no one in the inner sect? Suddenly, a youth walked down from the sky. It's the 7th-ranked Song Ji. He's a 2nd-level martial honorable and can challenge a 3rd-level martial honorable. Seeing who it was, a disciple immediately said respectfully, "Haha, how lively. How can I miss out on this?" Another youth flew out and laughed heartily. It's the 4th-ranked Qian Si. He's a 4th-level martial honorable. Not long after, 7 youths flew out and stood around the training field. "Senior brother, please avenge us." A group of inner sect disciples who had been beaten to the ground couldn't help but speak up when they saw the top 10 disciples appear. A bunch of trash. So many people can't even defeat a 9th-level martial spirit. You're really embarrassing our inner sect. Song Ji snorted disdainfully. Since Yi Hao did not hide his strength, Song Ji could see through Yi Hao's strength with a single glance. Hearing Song Ji's words, the group of inner sect disciples had unspeakable bitterness in their hearts. It wasn't that they were too useless. It was just that Yi Hao was too strong. The strength that he unleashed was not like a 9th-level martial spirit. Why is there one less of the top 10 disciples of the inner sect? Yi Hao looked at the surrounding youths. These people were indeed not bad. To be able to become a martial honorable at such a young age, his future was limitless. No wonder his reputation was so high among the disciples. You're not worthy of eldest senior brother making a move. Song Ji coldly snorted and answered Yi Hao's question. Senior brothers and junior brothers. Who wants to teach these junior brothers a lesson first and let them know that there is always someone better than them? One of the disciples asked. Wait a moment. Yi Hao suddenly spoke up. What, are you afraid? If you're afraid, then scram out of the inner sect. Do you really think that anyone can become an elder of the inner sect? That person said sarcastically, thinking that Yi Hao was afraid of them. No. Yi Hao chuckled and shook his head. My time is precious. All of you can come at me together. What? Did I hear wrongly? This Yi Hao is too arrogant. Don't tell me he wants to challenge the 7 outstanding disciples. I think this Yi Hao has really gone crazy. Boss is mighty. Boss is domineering. Boss is too handsome. I'm already infatuated with Boss. Yi Hao's group of lackeys immediately cheered excitedly. Brat, you're too arrogant. Sometimes you'll lose your life. One of the outstanding disciples narrowed his eyes and said coldly, Nonsense. If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't want to fight, then scram. Boss, beat these self-righteous fellows to death. I Ching shouted loudly. This guy is too hateful. Yi Hao looked at I Ching speechlessly. Sure enough, as soon as I Ching finished speaking, the 7 disciples immediately flew into a rage. Kill! The 7 disciples felt that they had been insulted. In an instant, they attacked Yi Hao from 7 directions. Chapter 274. Falling Leaves 1,000 Palms. Yi Hao immediately used a martial skill, forming thousands of energy palms around his body, attacking in all directions. It's actually the Falling Leaves 1,000 Palms. How does this kid know this martial skill? Seeing Yi Hao's martial skill, the 7 disciples were shocked and quickly picked up their weapons to defend. Senior brother, junior brother, this kid is only at the 9th level of the martial spirit realm. Even if he uses the Falling Leaves 1,000 Palms, he won't be able to hurt us. After a disciple finished speaking, he rushed forward. The disciple faced dozens of palm attacks. As soon as he touched them, his expression changed and he was instantly sent flying. This kid can't be at the 9th level of the martial spirit realm. What a strong power. He was a 3rd level martial saint, so his defense could withstand a 3rd level martial saint's attack. No matter how powerful a profound rank cultivation technique was, it was impossible for a 9th level martial spirit to hurt him. All of you kneel down. Yi Hao would not harm the lives of these disciples. After all, they were all talents. However, he still had to teach them a lesson. As soon as Yi Hao's voice fell, the falling leaves' 1,000 palms attacked the remaining 6 people. Plop! Song Ji's cultivation was the weakest, and he instantly knelt on the ground. Following that, the remaining few people all knelt on the ground. Strong. All the disciples only had this thought in their minds as they looked at everything in front of them in shock. Which of the top 10 inner sect disciples was in existence they looked up to? In their eyes, they were all unreachable and had become the goal of all the disciples. Now that 7 outstanding disciples had attacked at the same time, they had all been beaten to their knees. The key point was that this person was a new outer sect disciple. Boss is mighty. Boss is domineering. I Ching shouted excitedly, and the group of lackeys also began to shout loudly. Their eyes were filled with Yi Hao's tall figure. This kid is extraordinary. All the peak masters and elders could see the shock in each other's eyes. To be able to defeat 7 outstanding disciples so easily, and at the same time, in the 1,000 Beast sect, other than a few elders, only the peak masters could do it. The key point was that the peak masters could do it normally, but Yi Hao is still so young. At this moment, no one dared to doubt Yi Hao's talent and physique. Only with such an abnormal physique could he have such abnormal combat strength. Good. Suddenly, a young man in white walked out and clapped his hands. Murong Bao, one of the 10 most outstanding disciples of the inner sect. Everyone looked at Murong Bao, waiting to see if he would make a move. Murong Bao was one of the 10 most outstanding disciples in the inner sect. He was only 18 years old, but his strength had already reached the 6th level of the martial revered realm. He was not afraid of anyone who was talented and had the potential to become the 1,000 Beast sect leader in the future. Murong Bao was very powerful. None of the other outstanding disciples were a match for him. They were all very fearful of him. Murong Bao and Yi Hao stared at each other. Yi Hao could see that his eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight. Yi Hao was shocked when he saw Murong Bao's message. Seemed like there was no lack of geniuses in the myriad countries continent. This 1,000 Beast sect was just an honorable sect. There was actually such a young genius. Yi Hao immediately placed Murong Bao on the list of Beast Monster sect disciples half a year later. But when he saw Murong Bao, Yi Hao knew that the information Sun Ba received was wrong. As an honorable sect, the disciples of the 1,000 Beast sect who were less than 20 years old had so many honorable realm experts. How could the medicine sect, which was also an honorable sect, only have a 7th level martial spirit as their strongest disciple under 20 years old? You're very strong. The two of them looked at each other with fighting spirit. Murong Bao suddenly smiled and said, "Then become my little brother." Yi Hao said softly, "But you're not as old as me." Murong Bao shook his head and said, "That doesn't seem to have any effect." Yi Hao said calmly, "What you said seems to make sense. I've never been someone's little brother before. I think it should be quite interesting. So you've agreed. What do you think? Call me boss." Boss. All the inner sect disciples vomited 3 liters of blood. They thought that their eldest senior brother would help them take revenge, who knew that he wouldn't even say a word and would instead become someone's little brother. How is it? Does Xia Hao have the strength to become an inner sect elder? Yuan Guopeng stood up and asked. No one refuted him, because all the inner sect disciples were already afraid of Yi Hao. They couldn't beat him, but Peak Master Yuan still supported him. Their powerful eldest senior brother had even become his little brother. What else could they use to refute him? And the elders were even more unwilling to offend Xia Hao. Originally, the inner sect was managed by Yuan Guopeng. Now, Yuan Guopeng was willing to let whoever manage it. If they stood out to oppose now, they wouldn't get any benefits at all. Instead, they might offend Yuan Guopeng and a rising genius. How could they do such a thankless thing? Then it's decided. I'll go back and report to the sect master. Yuan Guopeng said perfunctorily. Report to my ass, sect master. The sect master is already dead. Yuan Guopeng thought with a smile. Greetings, Elder Xia. Congratulations, Elder Xia. All the disciples began to congratulate him. Even some of the elders clasped their fists to Yi Hao to express their goodwill. It was because Yi Hao was the youngest elder in the Thousand Beasts sect. For the next few days, Yi Hao didn't idle at all. At night, he brought Zhang Fei to visit each peak. The obedient peak masters submitted to him directly. The disobedient ones were served with mind-controlling pills. At this time, the outsiders still didn't know that the Thousand Beasts sect had changed hands. All the peak masters were Yi Hao's subordinates. Even Yuan Guopeng was kept in the dark. He was still thinking about how to change the minds of the elders. Of course, Xia Hao's name spread throughout the Thousand Beasts sect overnight. Everyone knew about him. First, he killed Bai Qingshang. Then, he challenged the entire inner sect and became the youngest elder in the inner sect. In the eyes of the disciples, he was a legend. Where are you running to, kid? Stop right there. Sister, if you don't chase me, I'll stop. And sister, you're so explosive. Be careful that no one wants you in the future. You little brat. If I catch you, I'll beat you to death. In the outer sect, I Ching was running with all her might. Behind her, a beautiful girl in red who exposed her hot personality was chasing after her with all her might. It was rare for a group of disciples to see I Ching suffer, so they were gloating at her misfortune. Wu Hei's expression was one of helplessness. All right, you guys have no conscience. Just you wait. I Ching's nose was crooked from anger as she looked at her little brothers who were watching the show. Finally, I Ching seemed to see hope. Boss, save me. I Ching pounced on Yi Hao with all her might. What's going on? Yi Hao had just come out of his room. He still didn't understand what was going on. The violent girl glanced at Yi Hao. She raised her pink fist and threatened, "Get out of my way, or I'll beat you up." Chapter 275. In the Wan Shou sect, everyone had to be respectful to him. Now, there was someone who dared to threaten him. Yi Hao was surprised. "Get out of my way." Seeing Yi Hao standing there in a daze, the violent beauty was impatient. She wanted to push Yi Hao away. Yi Hao reacted instinctively and instantly reached out his hand to hold the beautiful girl's tender fist. The beautiful girl struggled for a while and said in pain, "You're hurting me. Let go of me." "All right." Yi Hao immediately retracted his hand. Plop! The beautiful girl obviously didn't expect Yi Hao to be so obedient, letting go just like that. She wasn't prepared at all and directly sat on the ground. Ouch! The beautiful girl rubbed her butt and cried out in pain. "Who asked you to let go?" "I'm sorry. I think you asked me to let go," Yi Hao said softly when he saw the beautiful girl in pain. "Then why aren't you helping me?" The beautiful girl said cautiously. "All right." Yi Hao reached out to help her. When the beautiful girl saw Yi Hao's hand, a cunning look flashed in her eyes. She grabbed Yi Hao's shoulder and wanted to take revenge. However, Yi Hao suddenly retracted his hand. The beautiful girl did not want to let go so easily. Therefore, Yi Hao took advantage of the situation and pulled her. The two of them actually kissed. The two of them looked at each other and forgot to react. They were stunned. Damn, boss is too strong. I Ching could not believe her eyes. Someone dared to kiss his sister. It seemed like his sister was the one who threw herself into his arms. I'm going to kill you." After a while, the two of them separated. The beautiful girl suddenly let out an earth-shattering scream. That was her first kiss, and it was snatched away by a stranger just like that. "You kissed me yourself. Don't blame me. If you wanted to take responsibility, I don't mind." Yi Hao waved his hand helplessly and looked at the beautiful girl carefully. Her figure was not bad. Most importantly, she was also very good-looking. It should be rare in the Wan Shou sect. In your dreams, who wants you to take responsibility? The beautiful girl almost exploded. "Boss, this is my sister, Ikai." I Ching was really afraid that the two of them would really start fighting, so she quickly introduced her. "You stinking brat. You don't learn well, and you even acknowledge me as your boss." Ikai angrily grabbed I Ching's ear, wanting to teach her good-for-nothing brother a lesson. "What is your name? How dare you take my brother as a follower? I think you don't want to stay in the Wan Shou sect anymore." Ikair looked at Yi Hao and asked, "Xia Hao?" Yi Hao said softly. He didn't expect the beautiful girl in front of him to be I Ching's violent sister. He had just kissed her, but I Ching was right. Ikair was really violent. However, Ikair rolled up her sleeves and looked angry, which made Yi Hao feel that she was rather cute. "What? Your name is Xia Hao?" Ikair's voice suddenly changed, becoming gentle. "Is it that inner sect elder?" Ikair was still a little uncertain, so she asked again. Yi Hao gently nodded. He didn't understand why Ikair had suddenly become a different person, so he couldn't help but ask with concern, "Are you all right? Sister, what's wrong? Don't scare me." I Ching had never seen her sister speak like this, so she couldn't help but ask with a worried face. "Scram!" Ikair couldn't help but shout. At the same time, she kicked I Ching's butt. "That's my sister." I Ching giggled and ran away. Can I treat you to a meal?" Ikair couldn't help but lower her head and ask shyly. Because she had stayed at Yao Peak, she had heard all about Yi Hao's deeds these past few days. She couldn't help but worship Yi Hao from the bottom of her heart. And it wasn't just her. There were countless female disciples of the Wanshou sect who worshipped Yi Hao. They simply regarded Yi Hao as their Prince Charming. At such a young age, he was mighty and domineering, and he could even become an elder. Most importantly, Ikair looked at Yi Hao, who was very handsome. "Could it be that my sister has taken a fancy to the boss?" I Ching stood aside and saw Ikair's expression. She couldn't help but think in shock. Wasn't her sister not interested in men? What was going on? Or did her sister's personality change? But if her sister could marry the boss, it might be a good choice. Because in I Ching's eyes, there was no man in the world who could be compared to her boss, and no man could subdue her sister. "Sister, you might as well let the boss roast meat for you. His roast meat is the best," I Ching said while swallowing her saliva. "All right, let's go roast meat today." Looking at Ikair's eager face, Yi Hao couldn't refuse. "Oh, delicious. Delicious, too delicious." Ikair ate Yi Hao's roast meat and simply couldn't stop. She praised Yi Hao's cooking while eating without caring about her image. "How is it? I was right? Boss's roast meat is incomparable," I Ching boasted. Yes. Ikair nodded in agreement. She looked at Yi Hao with her eyes full of stars. 3 days later, under Yuan Guoping's lead, a total of 30 disciples set off for the ancient ruins. According to Yuan Guoping's introduction, the ancient ruins had existed for many years, and there would be a sign every time it opened. The sign of opening this time had appeared a month ago, but there was a restriction to enter the ancient ruins, and that was that one must be younger than 20 years old. Otherwise, the restriction of the ancient ruins would make it impossible for one to enter. In the ancient ruins, danger and opportunity coexisted. You could obtain a treasure and soar to the sky, or you could die in there. Once you entered the ancient ruins, you could only stay in there for 7 days. Once the 7 days were up, everyone would be automatically teleported out and wait for the next opening. Yi Hao's goal was the origin fragment, because the system had mentioned that the origin fragment might appear in the ancient ruins. This is the ancient ruins? In front of everyone was a towering mountain that was tens of thousands of meters tall. The mountain was shrouded in smoke. Even though they were all martial artists, they couldn't see through the mountain. It hurts. At this moment, a painful cry attracted everyone's attention. He must have used his mind power to explore the mountain and was injured by the restriction on the mountain. Yuan Guopeng glanced and said, although he hadn't entered the ancient ruins before, and he wasn't old enough to enter, he still knew about the restrictions of the ancient ruins from some of the information in the sect. Sigh, it's obvious that he's a rogue martial artist. Looks like he'll be crippled for the rest of his life. A pitiful voice came from the side. Yi Hao looked at the youth on the ground. He had reached the martial venerable realm, and now he was injured by the restriction. It was a pity, but what made Yi Hao even more curious was that others couldn't see through the mist, but he could. Chapter 276. I Ching, what can you see? Yi Hao asked I Ching, who was looking around. Other than fog, it's just fog. I Ching scratched her head and said, "Oomph. Country bumpkin, other than fog, what else can you see? Even if a martial emperor expert is here, they won't be able to see through the ancient ruins." Bai Yi sneered. "You." I Ching was about to speak when Yuan Guopeng pulled her back and said softly, "Be careful. This is not the sect. There are many experts here. Look at the old man behind the youth." "What's wrong with the old man?" I Ching looked over and saw a stooped old man standing behind the youth. "That's a martial emperor expert," Yuan Guopeng said softly. "What?" All the disciples were shocked. Looking at the old man's appearance, he is only the youth's bodyguard. If a bodyguard is a martial emperor, then what is the youth's identity? It's not just him. There are dozens of martial emperors around, so be careful of your words and actions. Yuan Guopeng was also shocked. He did not understand why so many martial emperors would descend this year. According to historical records, every time the ancient ruins descended, there would be at most Emperor Wu level escorts. This year, there were not many Emperor Wu level escorts. Most of them were martial emperors. A bunch of useless things. Seeing that I Ching and the others did not dare to speak, Bai Yi curled his lips. "Endure it for a while. Go in and deal with him." Yi Hao was afraid that I Ching would not be able to endure it, so he transmitted his voice to her mind. Because Zhang Fei was only at Emperor Wu level, if he fought with these people, he would not have the upper hand. However, Bai Yi was different. He was only at the peak of martial honorable level. Although Yi Hao could not defeat him, once he entered, it would be a different story. Yi Hao saw that the ancient ruins were filled with demonic beasts. To others, it might be incomparably terrifying, but to him, it was all experience. "Come here and massage my back." Bai Yi clearly did not want to let I Ching off so easily. He pointed at her nose and said, "What did you say?" I Ching's expression changed. This was simply too much. "I told you to come here. So, come here. Why are you talking nonsense?" The elder behind Bai Yi suddenly spoke. At the same time, he released an invisible pressure that pressed down on I Ching and the others. PFFF, I Ching could no longer hold it in. His internal organs were in turmoil, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. "Aha, cool." Bai Yi saw I Ching's deflated look and laughed in pain. "Senior, isn't this a little too much?" Seeing his disciple suffer, Yuan Guopeng didn't feel good in his heart. His expression changed again and again, but in the end he still spoke. "It's over." A cold smile appeared on the old man's face as he looked at Yuan Guopeng with disdain. Suddenly, his aura fluctuated. "You kneel down as well." Plop! The ground under Yuan Guopeng's feet instantly shattered. Yuan Guopeng felt a huge pressure on his body. His knees were trembling, making him want to kneel down, but he was unwilling to do so. He gritted his teeth so hard that his knees began to crack and blood began to seep out. Good. It's been a long time since I met someone with such character." But he had obviously asked the old man to do this many times. When he saw Yuan Guopeng's distressed look, he couldn't help but laugh maniacally. The martial artists at the side only looked on coldly. Most of them were gloating at the scene before them. "Don't resist." Yi Hao was furious. However, he wasn't a match for the old man. He could only say this to Yuan Guopeng and his disciples. The disciples' eyes were filled with anger. However, they were too weak and couldn't even resist. At this moment, they had a strong desire to become stronger. When they heard Yi Hao's words, everyone nodded with difficulty. Yi Hao immediately kept Yuan Guopeng and his disciples into his dragon prison lake. Where is he?" But he asked curiously when he saw his disciples suddenly disappear. Then, a greedy look appeared in his eyes. "Old Bai, quickly kill this kid. He must have some treasure on him." The commotion at Yi Hao's side attracted the attention of many martial emperors. This was because they didn't sense the movement of the teleportation talisman. Therefore, there was only one possibility. Yi Hao had a treasure on him. "Kid, hand over the spatial treasure and I'll save your life." How about that? At this moment, a martial emperor flew to Yi Hao's side and asked, "Sorry, there's no need." Yi Hao saw the greed in the martial emperor's eyes. Yi Hao said coldly. Yi Hao looked around and realized that there were already more than 10 martial emperors surrounding them. Yi Hao was extremely anxious. Open it. Quickly open it. As Yi Hao could see the scene inside the mountain, he could see that the door to the primordial ruins had already opened. However, it was clearly not enough for him to go through. He couldn't help but feel anxious. Kid, I advise you to hand it over obediently. I'll guarantee your safety, another martial emperor said in a threatening tone. All right, but there are so many of you. Who should I hand it over to? What Yi Hao needed to do now was to stall for time. When others entered the primordial ruins, they might need to open the door completely to find the way in. However, he didn't need to do that because he knew where the door was. As long as the door was open enough for one person to enter, he would be able to escape into the primordial ruins. Give it to me. Get lost. Who do you think you are? Of course, give it to me. Bullsh asterisk T, it's mine. All the martial emperors started arguing. Yi Hao couldn't help but sneer. While no one was paying attention, he slowly approached the primordial ruins. Of course, there were many martial emperors. Their auras were locked onto Yi Hao. However, when they saw Yi Hao moving toward the primordial ruins, they didn't rush to attack. After all, they knew the rules of the primordial ruins. There was still some time before the primordial ruins opened. It was impossible to enter now. They might even be injured by the primordial ruins. Just when Yi Hao was 3 meters away from the door, the old man's figure suddenly appeared behind him. Kid, where do you think you're going? It turned out that the old man had been paying close attention to Yi Hao since the beginning. He was cunning and astute. He wasn't like those martial emperors who started fighting over things before they even got their hands on them. He knew that only when the treasure was in his hands would it be real. Yi Hao frowned slightly. He didn't expect to be so close to success. Yi Hao couldn't help but cover his fingers. The old man immediately looked over with a smug smile. Kid, hand it over. WH. What? Yi Hao pretended to be flustered and put his hands behind his back. The ring on your finger? The old man was even more certain that the inconspicuous ring on Yi Hao's finger was a spatial treasure that could store living people. Chapter 277. Can you promise not to kill me? Yi Hao pretended to be fearful as he asked. Of course. The old man chuckled when he saw that Yi Hao had a chance. I'll give it to you then. Yi Hao threw the ring to the side as he spoke. Bastard, you're asking for it. The old man roared and quickly flew towards the ring. At the same time, he did not forget to hit Yi Hao with his palm. Yi Hao had already reached the entrance of the mountain. After being hit by the old man, Yi Hao borrowed the force and crashed into the ancient ruins. Bah, if I don't die, I'll kill all of you. Yi Hao felt his organs boiling. He forcefully swallowed the blood that surged up to his throat. At the same time, he took out a pill that he had scammed from Chun Ziqiao and swallowed it. At this moment, the towering stone door behind him shook violently. It immediately attracted Yi Hao's attention. What's going on? Yi Hao was shocked beyond words. The stone door that was slowly opening at the beginning was rapidly closing. Could it be because of this? Yi Hao took out the origin fragment. Instantly, the roars of beasts filled the air. Yi Hao could already feel the ground trembling. It should be countless wild beasts running towards him. Yi Hao was so frightened that he quickly put away the origin fragment. Only then did the roars of the beasts become softer. Seems like it really has something to do with this. Yi Hao understood that most of the origin fragments were here. At the same time, the people outside were also shocked. Where is he? How did that kid disappear? How did he enter the ancient ruins in advance? This ring is fake. This means that the real treasure is still with him. The old man threw the spatial ring aside angrily. Don't worry. When the ancient ruins opens, I'll go in personally to kill him. He sneered. Since Yi Hao could enter the ancient ruins, it meant that the ancient ruins had already opened. In a short while, the mountain gate of the ancient ruins would appear before them. Haha, so many beasts. I'm going to be rich. Yi Hao looked at the beasts that filled the mountain and could not help but think excitedly. Wu Song, Zhang Fei, come out. Yi Hao couldn't help but call out to Dragon Prison Lake. Immediately, 2 figures appeared beside Yi Hao. Greetings, my lord. The 2 of them said respectfully. Kill them. Yi Hao looked at the demonic beasts in front of him and said with a fiery gaze. At the same time, Yi Hao also took out the blood-stained dual sabers. Because the blood-stained dual sabers have been upgraded using leveling talismans, although they were already divine weapons, they were still lacking in power. However, the blood-stained dual blades could be upgraded, and the condition for upgrading was to devour the blood essence of magical beasts. Instantly, a bloody storm broke out in the primordial ruins. At that moment, the people outside couldn't help but start to panic because so much time had passed. The ancient ruins should have opened by now, but it hadn't. What's going on? Bai Yi frowned. To him, this ancient ruin was an opportunity for a breakthrough. He had been thinking about it for so long, and now that he couldn't enter, he couldn't help but feel anxious. Is there something wrong with the primordial ruins? Many people began to wonder. Where did that brat enter from? Some martial emperors began to ask. Everyone immediately pointed out the direction. Since that brat can enter, why can't we? That person continued to ask, but no one dared to step forward. Then you go and try. A martial emperor laughed sinisterly. I'm not that stupid. Isn't there a group of loose cultivators here? That person looked sinisterly at the loose cultivators beside him. Quickly run. There were many loose cultivators, but their cultivation levels were very low. They wanted to come out and look for opportunities. Now that they were targeted by so many martial emperors, they immediately felt that the situation was not good and wanted to escape. A bunch of trash. Still want to run? The martial emperors looked at each other and immediately joined hands to create a barrier, making it impossible for the loose cultivators to escape. Walk over yourself. The martial emperor pointed at a cultivator and said, Everyone, please spare my life. I still don't want to die. That cultivator immediately knelt on the ground. His scalp was bleeding from kowtowing, but he still continued to kowtow. If you go, there might be a trace of opportunity. If you don't go, only death awaits you. I will destroy your soul and make it impossible for you to enter the sixth Tao reincarnation. The martial emperor said sternly, All right, I'll go. The cultivator felt extremely helpless in his heart. However, he could only do as the martial emperor said and take a gamble. That's right. The martial emperors looked at each other and smiled when they saw that there were so many cultivators. Boom! When the cultivators walked to the front of the mountain and their clothes touched the mountain smoke, they immediately turned into dust. Could it be that the position is wrong? The martial emperors were unwilling to give up. They pointed at the group of cultivators and said, You guys walk side by side. Under the threat of the martial emperors, those cultivators could only forcefully suppress the fear in their hearts and walk towards the mountain. Boom! As expected, these dozen or so martial artists also turn into ashes. Looks like this method won't work. We can only wait here. A martial emperor shook his head and sighed. That's right. The ancient remnant closes every 7 days. There's only one exit. Let's wait here. But what if that brat doesn't come out after 7 days? Suddenly, someone asked worriedly. What this person said was not impossible. After all, there was a problem with the ancient remnant. Who knew if there would be any more problems? However, the martial emperors understood that not to mention 7 days, even if they had to wait for a year, it would be worth it. At their level, a year's time was nothing. It was just a matter of time for them to talk and laugh. Not only did Yi Hao have a spatial treasure, but he could also enter the ancient remnant. If Yi Hao could obtain the inheritance of the ancient remnant to them, that was a rare opportunity. Everyone, I suggest that the brat is too cunning and has endless tricks up his sleeves. When he comes out, no matter what, we should take him down first. We can fight for the treasure later. What do you think? I agree. I agree too. Dozens of martial emperors actually reached an unprecedented agreement. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for killing a rank 6 demonic beast. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 6,000 experience points. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 6,000 soul points. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for killing a rank 5 demonic beast. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 500 experience points. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 500 soul points. With a sweep of Wu Song's staff, several demonic beasts were killed. As for Zhang Fei, he was even more ferocious. His figure could not be seen clearly. Wherever he went, a large number of demonic beasts would die. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. Currently at rank 10 Martial Spirit. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. Currently at rank 11 Martial Spirit. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. Currently at rank 1 Martial Venerable. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a big gift pack. This is simply a sea of experience. Yihao's level rose like a rocket, making him extremely excited. However, he felt that it was still too slow. Chapter 278. There were countless demonic beasts in the ancient ruins. Wu Song and Zhang Fei had been killing them for almost a day and night, but the three of them were still at the foot of the mountain. Moreover, Yihao didn't know where the origin fragment was. If they only had 7 days, they wouldn't be able to make it in time. Master, you forgot that you have an even more powerful weapon. The weapon spirit of Dragon Prison Lake seemed to know what Yihao was thinking and couldn't help but say, "You're talking about the formation." Yihao's eyes lit up. Indeed, using the formation could instantly cause a large area of damage. After so long, he had almost forgotten about it. That's right, the weapon spirit replied with a smile. But then, Yihao started to feel troubled. Although he knew how to set up formations, he was only at level 1. Only level 1 and level 2 formations had a high chance of success. However, level 1 and level 2 formations could only cause damage to level 1 and 2 demonic beasts. They couldn't cause damage to level 5 and above demonic beasts. I got it. Yihao suddenly thought of the yin-yang life and death formation. That was only a level 3 formation. His success rate was only 10%. But with the heart of formation, it could double the success rate and reach 20%. But 20% was still not enough for him. Yihao immediately entered Dragon Prison Lake. He glanced at Yuan Guopeng and the others who were cultivating. As Yihao had told them about what happened outside, they all started to cultivate after knowing that Yihao was fine. Yihao didn't have the time to bother with them. He randomly found a level 2 formation. Others were level 1 formation carvers. If they wanted to carve a level 2 formation, they would only have a 50% success rate. But Yihao had the heart of formation, so his success rate reached 100%. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for successfully carving a level 2 illusion formation. Experience gained, 10. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for successfully carving a level 2 illusion formation. Experience gained, 10. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for successfully carving a level 2 illusion formation. Experience gained, 10. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. Current level, level 2. Phew, it's finally healed. Yihao panted heavily. The artifact spirit was confused. He didn't understand why Yihao was still carving these small arrays at this time. Little dragon, lend me a few drops of dragon blood, Yihao said to the giant dragon beside him. The giant dragon painfully gave Yihao several hundred drops of dragon blood and pleaded to Yihao, "Master, I can give you the dragon blood, but can you let me out? I want to devour some magical beast blood essence and magic crystals." Yihao readily agreed. The giant dragon had followed him for so long and had been hiding in the Dragon Prison Lake. It had suffered a lot. Roar! The huge dragon came out of the Dragon Prison Lake and roared excitedly. The dragon's roar resounded through the clouds. Hearing the dragon's roar, countless magical beasts immediately prostrated themselves on the ground, fearing the dragon's might. The giant dragon opened its mouth, and in an instant, a few magical beasts entered its mouth and became its rations, following which the giant dragon's body shook as it broke through to the second-order martial honorable realm. "Master, what is this place? The blood essence of these demonic beasts is so pure." "Oh, Could it be related to the origin source fragment? Yi Hao guessed in his heart. Master, I feel that there is hope for me to return to my peak. The giant dragon shouted excitedly. Originally, he had consumed the sage elixir and his injuries had healed. However, his cultivation had disappeared for tens of thousands of years. It wasn't that easy to recover. However, in this valley, there were countless magical beasts, which gave him hope. If this sage recovers his cultivation, I will definitely kill you. The giant dragon's eyes burned with a fiery light. He believed that his enemy was definitely not dead yet. Therefore, he wanted revenge. That's great. Quickly go and devour the magical beasts. Hearing the giant dragon's words, Yi Hao was happy for him. Most importantly, the giant dragon could also gain experience and soul points by killing the magical beasts. Moreover, the giant dragon had been holding it in for too long. It had been almost 10,000 years. It was time for him to vent. On the other hand, Yi Hao began to set up the yin-yang life and death array. The yin-yang life and death array was only a third-order array. It definitely wouldn't be able to cause any harm to these magical beasts. However, Yi Hao recalled that when the weapon spirit set up the yin-yang life and death array to test him, a drop of blood from the giant dragon accidentally caused the array to mutate into a sixth-order array. With Yi Hao's current level, the success rate of setting up the yin-yang life and death array was 100%. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for successfully inscribing the third-order yin-yang life and death array. Experience gained, 15. Whether it succeeds or not, it all depends on this. Yi Hao dripped a drop of dragon blood into the center of the array. The array shone brightly with red light. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for comprehending the enhanced version of the yin-yang life and death array. The host's profession level increased by 1. It really works. Yi Hao was the master of the array. He could instantly feel that the yin-yang life and death array had reached the sixth-order array. Genius! The weapon spirit had been observing what Yi Hao was doing. When he saw Yi Hao inscribing the enhanced version of the yin-yang life and death array, he could not help but praise him in shock. Yi Hao had only set up this yin-yang life and death array to test it out. Clearly, it could only deal with a few magical beasts. It was far from enough. Yi Hao looked at the magical beasts that covered the entire mountain and called out to the dragon. He jumped directly onto the dragon's body and said, "Listen to my command. Wherever I tell you to go, you go there. Wherever I tell you to stop, you stop there." Wherever the giant dragon went, the magical beasts would immediately flee. This gave Yi Hao a lot of convenience. Yi Hao quickly drew the lines of the array. Then, he buried the magical beast's crystal cores so that the magical beasts would not destroy them. On the second day, Yi Hao spent the entire day setting up the array. Meanwhile, Zhang Fei and Wu Song were still fighting a bloody battle. It was the same on the third day. On the fourth day, Wu Song was already exhausted and was meditating to recover. Zhang Fei was still struggling to kill the magical beasts. On the fifth day, Wu Song continued to fight, while Zhang Fei started to rest. As for Yi Hao, his eyes were already red, but he was still setting up the array. Phew, it's finally set up. Looking at the array that covered almost the entire ancient ruins, Yi Hao stood at the center of the array. Prepare to receive the big gift I've prepared for you. Yi Hao looked at the magical beasts that covered the mountains and plains and shouted excitedly. He was now a level 4 martial honorable, and his soul points had once again reached a huge number of 5 million. It had not even been 6 days. He should be able to fight Yuan Guopeng now. After all, Yuan Guopeng was also a level 1 Emperor Wu. However, Yi Hao also realized that the higher his level, the less experience he received. On the first day, he could level up a few times. On the second day, he could also level up once. However, after that, he could only level up once every 2 days. However, this was not a problem. Even if the magical beast gave less experience, he could use numbers to pile it up. Yi Hao estimated that after killing all these magical beasts, he could probably level up 4 or 5 times. The leveling feast has begun. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.